This is your Cosmic Guide. My name is Mr. Eric J. Lassasia Sr., and I'll be your Cosmic Guide throughout this adventure. Thank you. Okay, this is considered understanding of the decanates. The signs are divided into decanates. Each sign is divided into 3 parts of 10 degrees each. The first 10 degrees are of the nature of the sign itself. The second 10 degrees of the nature of the next sign of the same element. The third 10 degrees of the nature of the third sign of the same element. These subrulers modify the characteristics of the signs. All individuals born in the same sign are not alike. The decadence of the sign on the ascendant at birth is very important. Study your sign types and you will learn much about the importance of the decadent ruler. Note the aspect to the subruler, also between the subruler and the planetary ruler of the sign. Okay, understanding a little deeper about the chart above, saying that Aries at its first 10 degrees from 0 to 10 degrees ruled by Mars. Okay, according to the chart here, Aries in the first 10 degrees ruled by Mars. The second 10 degrees from 11 to 20 degrees is ruled by the Sun. And the third 10 degrees is ruled by Jupiter. It's 30 degrees to a sign, or 0 to 29. 30 is 0 of the next sign. Okay, so let's go down to... So it says from 0 to 10, from 0 to 10 degrees ruled by Mars, is impulsive and headstrong tendencies accentuated, active, honest, and outspoken by nature. Likes to be on the move. Note Mars by sign as well as aspect. We'll get into aspects later. So the second 10 degrees from 10 to 20 degrees ruled by the Sun. And that's Martian force modified and less self-centered, ambitious nature with more sustaining power than the first decadent, which is from 0 to 10 degrees ruled by Mars. And the third quadrant of that 10 degree would be 20 to 30. 20 to 30. Alright, that would be here, ruled by Jupiter. Now it would be desire to see the world and travel very strongly, interested in sports, gambling, and out of doors. And it says, if average type. If advanced religion and philosophy, the pages, of deep interest, most restless decadent. So it's an urge to travel. Okay, and then we have Taurus, the next sign, Taurus. And the first decadent is ruled by Venus, first 0 to 10. Second, under Taurus, is Mercury, from 11 to 20. And then Saturn from 21 to 30. That's Taurus. Put a little color to it. There we go. Taurus, this line. And now we're talking about from 0 to 10, 11 to 20 degrees, and 21 to 30. That's Taurus. under the first decadent is ruled by Venus, the planet Venus. Second decadent Mercury, and the third Saturn. Let's go with our third chart, which is, and in Taurus, to explain what it's saying, Taurus under the first degree from 0 to 10 degrees is ruled by Venus, and that makes that Taurian artistic and creative, very stubborn nature. So you cannot be pushed, a bull, but you can lead him or her if you know the ring in his nose is love. Central side of nature needs controlling. The central is like touching, being touched, or having to touch. Central side of nature needs controlling. Aspects to Venus will be very important. Okay. So the next part of that is from 10 to 20. Now, chart over here. Let's go back to our chart. Page 2. Taurus from 11 to 20 is Mercury. And it says from 10 to 20 is more intellectual agility and discrimination, more sociable and adaptable, flows with the tide if Mercury is unafflicted. Unafflicted means, doesn't have negative aspects, like you'll have squares, oppositions, as opposed to trines and sextiles, or conjunctions, or there are not too many fixed signs. Now, fixed signs, the fixed signs, right? Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Taurus. Those are fixed signs. So you don't want to have too many fixed signs. Now, third consideration would be for Taurus would be from 20 to 30, ruled by Saturn. Go back up to, so you can see that on the chart. And here it is from 20 to 30. What he's saying, 21 to 30, coming out of 20, going to 21 to 30, is ruled by Saturn. Okay. Most materialistic, in other words, they have to have material holdings, of the Taurian decadence, can be stingy, ambitious, and money and prestige very important. Note the aspects to Saturn, conventional type. Okay, now we continue with Gemini's decadence from 0 through to 30 degrees, and each quadrant is ruled by a different planetary ruler, which in this case is Gemini. From 0 to 10 degrees is ruled by Mercury. Alright, so we're considering the next sign, which is Gemini. We have here Gemini, and then we'll give that a color of green. It likes green. Alright, so now we have Gemini. It's quadrants. The sign is Gemini. The first quadrant is from 0 to 10 degrees is Mercury, the planet Mercury. The second quadrant is from 11, from 10 to 11 to 20 degrees is Venus. The planet that rules that section is planet Venus. And from 20 to 21 to 30 is the planet Uranus that rules that section. That's decadence. Decadence is a division of 10 sections. Each section is ruled by a different planet that rules this sign. And so when the planet is going through the degrees, as it's going through its season, it's actually entering through different parts of that. Now there's 30 degrees to a sign. That's why you have 30 degrees here. It's final degree. So each time the sun transits into this sign, which is, this looks like spring, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini spring, then the sun is going through a degree a day. So the sun goes through 1 degree a day as it enters different signs in the zodiac. So that's why this decade is so important, because you want to find out what degree you were born at the time in that season when the sun was passing through these degrees. Okay, so we'll get into that a little deeper, but right now let's focus on how the decadence of that sign, the sun passes through this sign in its various degrees. Okay, so we're at Mercury, and what that means, from 0 to 10, that planet, the sun is in Mercury, or the ruling planet of that degree is Mercury. You can see from the chart it went from 0 to 10 and indicated that the ruling planet is Mercury. So that expresses most. Now, Geminis they work on nervous energy anyway. It's an air sign, so they're most restless and diffused of the 3 decanates. And so what they're saying is just that they're most restless. They like butterflies, or a fly. How it goes fast and really doesn't take any time, but very observant, like a fly. It really messes with you. Okay, strong ties with family and clings to an ancestral hall because of the insecurity and indecisiveness. Most talkative, because it's an air sign. If Saturn is not strong, needs, because that's nervous energy here, most talkative. Okay, insecurity is usually when they need to talk about a lot of different stuff. Needs to learn to be quiet so that they can take in other thoughts. All right, but that's what that indicates. So when the sun is passing through the sign of Gemini in the first 10 degrees, it's ruled by its ruling planet, right? Mercury. In this case, Mercury rules 2 signs. It's duality. I'm going to get into a little more, but Mercury rules 2 signs. It rules Gemini, extrovert, and Virgo, introvert. All right, in this case, Mercury rules Gemini at the first 10 degrees. Now the second 10 degrees of the sun passing through, it's 30 degrees, is at 10 degrees through 20, and it's ruled by Venus. Okay, so we'll go back to the chart so you can see where that comes in at. And you can see how Venus is here, the sign Gemini, second quadrant is Venus, and that indicates, okay, Venus here indicates creativity and artistic talent strong. Should have a career dealing with people in a personal sense, because here's Venus right here. Venus are like, good hosts or hostesses. They like to mix with people. Very likable type. All right, they should have a career dealing with people in a personal sense. Very likable type, very restless, and dislikes routine work, can be lazy. So encourage these people to get out and deal with things one step at a time because of the flyy nature. I would say butterfly, but they're more like flies. They moving around. Okay. In quadrant, a third quadrant, which is from 20 to 30 degrees, and that's ruled by Uranus. So we'll go back to our chart. Okay, and here's the third aspect from 21 to 30. Gemini, the sign Gemini. As a sign, the sun goes through 1 degree per day it enters at 21 through 30 degrees, and now the planet Uranus is in rulership of those degrees, right, over Gemini. Now, here's something that you need to know, that Uranus is the higher arc of Gemini, because these two are air signs. So it's the highest aspect part of Gemini. It's like, here's the TV antenna, and here's like cable, satellite TV. All right, so then you have Uranus, the higher arc of Gemini. So that should indicate some good aspect. Let's see. So we'll go back to the third. And so here would be from 20 to 30 degrees, Gemini would have success in business. See how that goes? It's a higher arc of Gemini. Science or heading big corporations, like Oprah Winfrey would be probably one of them. Or large groups of people, excellent business head and keen mind. So you can see how that higher arc, the higher arc of Gemini is Uranus, the planet Uranus. Or here's Gemini and here's Aquarius. Okay? Because the ruling planet of Aquarius is Uranus. Alright, so here that covers that. Okay, so we come to our next sign after Gemini. It's Cancerian. I prefer Cancerian. First of all, this name Cancer is associated to like illnesses and things like that, and it doesn't put a good positive aspect on the moon. The moon does a lot for the earth, and also does a lot for the sign Cancer, Cancerian. But the fact is that there's a negative meaning. Etymology has everything to do with how people understand things. And so the moon is also misunderstood, as well as the persons that are ruled by it, the Cancerians. It has everything to do with emotions, but everyone's emotional in different sense. But we need to understand ourselves and our emotions, thereby understand what the moon is all about. It is the governor of the planet. And so therefore, it has everything to do with how we are balanced and how we see ourselves emotionally. But in any case, this name Cancer is definitely associated with something that is freaking killing people. And so in that sense, it's linked to something negative. And these people could be very positive if you give them a chance. Alright, so let's move on with the meaning of it and how the sun is passing through its various degrees. Let's spotlight it, which is one of the lights of the two lights. There's only two lights that are in the system, and that light is, let's get this color right. Okay, that light is this color. It's one of the lights, because the moon has everything to do with how it comes out at night. The night, it rules the night, and in my opinion, this moon has its light, a light of its own. I just feel that it has a light of its own, because I have problems with how does the sun just focus its light on the moon. I have to look into that, but I think it illuminates its own light. But okay, let's go into what the focus is. The focus is to understand how the planet Sun is passing through the degrees. Is 30 degrees to a sign. How the planet Sun is passing through the various degrees, and how each section is ruled by a planet. Okay, so the first decanate or first 10 degrees of how the planet Sun passes through at 1 degrees per day in each of the signs. So every day the Sun goes through 1 degree as it passes through the signs. Now here's springtime right here. This is Aries, Taurus, and Gemini spring. So we start coming out here. Half of this Gemini is summer. Here's summer and here's summer. So we start going into summer at Cancerian. And so let's see what the first 10 degrees of the Sun passing through the summer season of Cancerian means. So we'll go here to our chart. Yeah, here it is. First 10 degrees. And the first 10 degrees is from 0 to 10, indicated by the moon. The moon rules Cancerian. And it says it reacts more subconsciously than consciously to life. Timid and shy in early life. Receptivity strong. Needs to learn not to respond emotionally to impressions or feelings. That is very incorrect, because the moon registers all emotions, 360 degrees of emotions. That is the initiation of this sign under this planet. So being timid is only because they're sensitive to the vibrations that are around them that they don't understand. You see, the moon goes through each sign and spends 2.5 days in each sign. You should know that. And so it makes a person that's not aware, they're feeling things from a subconscious level to a conscious level. But how do you get things from a subconscious level to a conscious level that you have a knowledge of it? You don't believe, you just know something. So it makes it in the early stages of subconsciousness, whereas you don't know, it makes you timid and shy because you can't grasp what these emotions are doing. But once you understand how the moon passes through each of the 12 signs at 2.5 days per sign, then you understand how Cancerians are all of the signs in 28 1/3 day. So that's a big task for the Cancerians. It's a big task for the Cancerians. The other opposite side of that is Pisces. When we get into Pisces, you understand how it takes them a whole year. They know they have all the signs, but we'll get into Neptune and Pisces after this. But right now, let's focus on Cancerians as they are trying to understand the emotions that are being brought to them every 2.5 days in each sign as they go through all of the 12 signs in 28 1/3 day. So you can see how this need to learn not to respond emotionally is kind of ridiculous to impressions and feelings, because this is what the lesson is. They have a lesson to understand the impressions and feelings and to feel emotions. They just need to understand it. Once you understand what the emotions are, then you can register it, and now it becomes conscious. It becomes on a conscious level. Alright, so that needs to be understood. And I don't think anyone has tried to cover that. Even the people that are being ruled by it hasn't covered it. But I'm a Cancerian, and I'm surely understanding how this has everything to do with my emotions. And being that it goes through all of the signs in 28 1/3 day, you got to be up on what these receptivities are, what you're feeling subconsciously, what you're responding to emotionally, and the impressions and feelings that you're picking up. Is it yours or other people's? Then you bring in the aspect of being psychic, okay? Because then you're picking up like you're a sponge. You're picking up the psychic impressions that other people are putting out, and you got to differentiate that between what's yours and what's theirs. So, needs to learn not to respond emotionally to impressions and feelings? No. You need to understand how to respond to emotional situations and impressions and feelings. That is a need to understand it so that you can differentiate it between what's yours and what's someone else's, and wring that sponge out. Okay, so now we go into the next aspect of, and we'll go to our chart. And so we already covered the moon in the first 10 degrees because the moon rules Cancerian. Now the second, as the sun passes through and finishes the 10 degrees, it enters 11 degrees of Cancer, the sun in Cancer at 10 degrees, and that changes the planetary ruler. Now the ruler becomes Mars. So let's see how Mars affects Cancerians at 11 through 20 degrees as it's passing through. Remember, the planets move from left to right, up and around, and the signs move from left to right, going in the opposite direction. So the planets are traveling and mixing into the 30 degrees of each of these signs as it goes through the seasons of the zodiac. So let's discuss how the second decadent of Mars is affecting Cancerians during that season. Alright, so we'll go, is that 4? Yeah. Okay, so here we are at 10 degrees through 20 degrees and it's ruling Mars. Cancerians is ruling Mars. And so it makes them have a mystical tendencies are strong. Note the aspects to the 8th house. Now when you get into the charts, and you'll get into your personal natal chart, which is actually your map or blueprint to show you where you are, where your spirit is in this particular life form. And the aspects between the moon and Mars is going to be very significant, showing how these mystical tendencies are going to be strong. And then the strong tenacity and stubbornness. The strong tenacity and stubbornness has to do with understanding how Mars, which is a fire sign, which is operating, it's like a raw energy, right? This raw energy of Mars is registering water through water. So when you put heat to water, what do you have? You have some kind of boiling going on, right? So it has a strong sense, tenacity, and stubbornness to hold on to. And it has to overcome resentment and jealousy. Alright, so if you really don't understand the emotions, you would have a tendency to overcome resentment and jealousy. It's everything to do with how to understand emotions. Everything to do with. And when you understand 2.5 degrees per day through all of the signs in 28 1/3 day that the moon has to go through, and these people that are being ruled under this vibration, you can see how this is so important. Okay, let's go to our third section, which is from 20 to 30 degrees, and Neptune is the ruling planet. So let's show that on the chart. So here we are, the sign Cancerian, or moon children, and the third quadrant would be 21 through 30, and that ruling planet, as the sun passes through the degrees, each 1 degree per day. When it gets to 21 degrees, then the planet Neptune takes over and then has everything to do with how these people are registering emotion. Okay, from 20 to 30 under Neptune, the planet Neptune's rulership, makes these people sympathetic. They have a sympathetic nature because Neptune's ruling Pisces and sub-ruling Jupiter. Okay, so it makes the Jupiterian quality and the Neptune's sympathetic nature come out. So these people want to be giving in nature. And then they're very emotional and apt to over-identify with passing currents. Well, based on what we already said, that you're picking up these subliminal vibrational effects caused by the moon. And in the moon, the Cancerian, you can see how it's like, if you're not aware of these consciously, subconsciously, these passing currents can be very unsettling. And so here's the sponges that absorb atmospheres. You have to differentiate between what's yours, your emotions, and what's other people, because you're picking up everything. You're picking up things out of the atmosphere. And unless you understand this, you won't understand what's going on. And most people that are ruled by this, if they don't understand what's going on, well, they're going to go into drugs and alcohol because they want to quiet the senses that's passing through them. That's making them this emotion. They don't want to be emotional creatures. They don't want to absorb like a sponge the atmospheres. So these people need to understand themselves and how these emotions will differentiate between what's theirs and what's other people's. So it makes them very psychic, of course, because they're picking up shit. I mean, they're picking up things from other people that they have to, again, differentiate. And so this is a very difficult aspect when that sun passes through this. If they're aware, then you got your psychics. You got people that can help other people through psychic events. These people are hired by policemen to find people that have been killed that they can't figure out because they don't have their little spies or out there telling them how their job should go. You know, these cops rely on people that have the knowledge, right? Informants. But if they don't have enough people telling them stuff, well, they have to rely on psychics to tell them the rest of it. And then most of these people can find people that are missing because they can use these vibrations, these oversensitivities, passing currents, to find these people once they're aware of themselves through this energy. And they can be they're like martyrs and servers of the race. Like, you know, that story about Jesus, you know, Jesus isn't real, but it's a story. But if there was anybody that would be a martyr, it would be Jesus, acting like it has to serve and die for the sins of humans. There's no merit in that. There's no one who's going to be dying for your sins. Okay, you make your sins, you have to make up for your sins. There's no one that's going to come and take your sins away, right? You have to make sure that you take your sins away. And then so these people are put in a martyr situation because they feel that they need to serve the race. Well, they need to be conscious of themselves first, then serve themselves, then they're able to help other people, right? The first duty is to yourself, not to other people. The first duty is to yourself. So this whole martyr game, you can't help people that want to help themselves. You cannot help people that don't want to help themselves. It's just that simple. And if they don't want to help themselves, you waste your time. Alright, so these people over here that are ruled under this sign, and I'm very emotional about that, because the games that the people play, they say Jesus came down to die for the sins of humans. Forget that. The sun is Jesus. That's the life giver. You see Jesus every day. The sun shines every day. unless the clouds are covering it. And it's the life giver of the planet. Okay, it makes things grow. You don't see somebody up on a cross coming back. No, in this story, Jesus is hiding. It only reveals itself to certain people. Come on. If you're a God transformed into a human species, why would you hide? It's a story that has to be really taken into an astrological point of view, so you can see what that really means. Don't take it verbatim. It's not to be taken, like a real story. It's not a real story. It's just some kind of story that was told because you had these people that were trying to stop people from being positive and then using them, and if they didn't listen, they were killed. So these people had to hide behind these stories. All right? The real Jesus is the sun. So understand that. Without that sun, we would be all dead. How would all the planets travel around it if the sun didn't exist? Sunlight comes and does everything on this planet. There was no man on no cross dying for the sins of man or human. So forget that. Coming into the new age of ideas, all right? Because we're coming out of the age of Pisces, which is illusion, delusion, into the age of Aquarius, which is knowing, knowledge, all right? Taking the knowledge and knowing instead of believing. You actually know, not believe. Believe is not knowing. So I'm very emotional about that because we have to set this thing straight. We have to set it straight and stop believing in these fairy tales that people make you believe. Then you start living it, and then at the end you're all confused. You think by praying to God you're going to go straight to heaven? There is no heaven. There is no hell. There's no purgatory. No, it's just you being a consistent spirit living forever and ever, putting yourself in these stories. Well, that's one version of it anyway. All right, let's get back to our focus. Our focus is to understand how the sun, the real Jesus, passes through a degree a day in these particular signs. Okay, so let's go back to the planet Cancerian is going, the sun is passing through these degrees, and at the 21st through the 30th degree, it's ruled by Neptune. And you can see how these people, if they're not your drug addicts or alcoholics, then they fully understand what it is to be psychic and to be very attuned to things that are around them. Okay? And so that's why this is important, because people need to know how the energies that we live under are relating to us in these various degrees. The decanates are so important. When you learn, when you look in ephemeris for the day that you were born, all right, the month, day, and year that you were born, you'll find in the ephemeris the degree that your sun is passing through on that particular day. And that'll tell you what decanate that you are in. So you can relate to these various vibrations and help yourself to figure out the fairy tales from reality. Okay, as we continue with the next light. And this is the light of life and love in every aspect of the Jesus concept. It is the sun, the real sun. And this sun is the ruler of Leo, the lion. And they're considered Leo the lion, the king of the jungle. Okay, that's the real Jesus. All right, but let's talk about it. Let's put a light on it, because there's two lights. There's a light, the moonlight, and then the sunlight. And then everything, there's a night version of how the lights are affecting the signs, and then there's a day version ruled by the sunlight, the day version. And we'll get into that later. Night version versus day version, and how these these energies are affected by these energies. Alright, but let's emphasize on the sun right now. And we'll put the sun, we'll put a light on this, which is the sunlight. There we go. Alright, so as I mentioned, there are two lights. There's the Cancerian light, which is moonlight, and then there's sunlight. And our next focus would be on Leo, the nature of Leo as it goes, the sun in its natural ruler. The sun naturally rules Leo. As it goes through its 30 degrees and per 1 degree per day that the sun travels through as it goes through its seasons. And now we seem like we're still in summertime. Alright, this is one Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and half of Gemini is summer. And then we Cancer, Leo is still summer. So the sun is still in the summer season in Leo as it's going through 1 degree per day in these various degrees. Now these various degrees are called decanates, and these decanates are showing how the people that are born under these degrees, based on an ephemeris, it shows you, it's like a calendar, it shows you the various degrees that the sun is traveling through on the day that you were born, month, day, and year. And if you want your chart done, it's the timing to see where everything is rising and midheaven. Alright, so let's go on with the focus, and that is the Leo nature. The sun in the Leo nature as it goes through the degrees, quadrants of degrees. First 0 to 10 degrees, the second 11 to 20 degrees, and the third to 21 to 30 degrees, and there's only 30 degrees to a sign. Now, in this instant, as we spoke about the moon traveling 2.5 days per sign, 2.5 days per sign, 28 and 1/3 day total, we have the sun spending 1 month in each sign. Okay, 1 month, 1 whole month, 30 days in each sign. And here you see the divisions of that influence as it goes through the first 0 to 10 degrees, 11 to 20 degrees, and 21 to 30 degrees. Okay, so now with the sun, Leo, being ruled by the first 10 degrees, it has everything to do with the sun, because the natural ruler of Leo is the sun. So we'll go in and see what the interpretation of that means as we continue with our investigation of the decanates. Okay, so Leo's nature, okay, in the first from 0 to 10 degrees is ruled by the sun, as we mentioned. And that would cause a person to be ambitious, fearless like the lion, proud like the lion, and sincere. Okay. If the sun is not afflicted, alright, or, they don't have bad aspects. Now, aspects, I don't know if you really got into that yet, but, in this whole dynamics of understanding energies, you must know how these energies are connecting. Are they connecting in a positive aspect or a negative aspect or somewhere in between? And that's like, okay, here's a person, you get along with that person right here, but the next day you can't get along with that person. Why? Because the aspects change from day to day. Here you get along with the person, the next day you can't get along with the person. Why? Because it may be a square. It may be in opposition. You be right on a person and they'll be opposing you because of the energy vibrations that are in opposition to itself. So it causes people not to try to understand that opposition, which is 180 degrees, which is 180 degrees, half of 360. So if it's not afflicted, that means it's not aspecting correctly. So you have trines, you have conjunctions, you have sextiles, you have squares, you have oppositions, And then you have every degree in between that registers in 360 degrees, that aspect. Okay, you need to know that. You need to find that in your own chart to see how these aspects are influencing you in this present time where your spirit is passing through your physical being. All right, I'm just laying it on the line because, you know, the age of Aquarius, you have to be as honest as possible. You have to speak truth, not fairy tale. Okay, fairy tale is part of the Piscean age. Truth is part of the Aquarian age. So you need to know truth from fairy tale. So in this aspect, what Leo, the Leo nature passing through the first 10 degrees of it is about being ambitious, about being fearless, about being proud and sincere. If the sun is poorly aspected, is going back to those aspects that I was telling you about, then it, you have to be careful of how those are affecting you. It has, under this aspect, good vitality. Now, the sun basically is generating vitality into you. All right, let's say that you start from your birthday, right? Every year that the sun is passing through your sign for a whole year, you have a birthday. It goes through from where it enters your sign to at the end of the year, and then you have a birthday, which gives you another age. All right, so if you're coming from 5, you're going to 6. If you're coming from 4, you're going to 5. All right, etc. So that the sun gives the vitality for the year, and that's what the sun brings, vitality. There are various energies that promote different effects, like Mars is raw energy and Pluto is your power systems. But let's not get too far of ourselves. Let's focus on what these degrees mean in this particular sense. I'm just giving you some keys into understanding and pursuing furtherly how these things are affecting you. This is just the beginning of how these degrees are affecting you. Okay, they make good friends and poor enemies. Okay, they want to be people's friends. They want to give that vitality to people. They want to bring that strength, that ambitiousness. They want to direct people properly, not confuse them with false information. They want to be proud of what they present to people. All right, sun, under proper conditions, if let's say that you're on a beach and you're laying there, if you're not shielded, well, you're going to get sunburned. All right, you have to tamper this with understanding. You have to temper everything with understanding. So basically, it brings good vitality. It makes a person a good friend and a poor enemy. All right, and don't step on their dignity because they're proud. All right, these people, you step on their dignity, right? It was like, well, they're not your friends anymore. All right, they'll become, they're not your friends. And don't ridicule would cause both parties anguish, right? Why would you want to ridicule somebody that's bringing you something positive because you're jealous or you're envious or you have a problem? These people are just trying to bring you ambitious ways of looking at things. All right, present you with proper direction. If you're trying to divert that, which is an old Piscean way of misdirecting you, misleading you, and putting you under some kind of illusional spell, then of course you're not going to understand how these people are bringing you good vitality, right? They're bringing you positive vitality because the age is going into age of Aquarius, not the age of Pisces. All right, and I'm not saying all Pisceans are negative. I'm saying that if they're not aware, then they're living an illusion, and they're making people live that same illusion because they're following them right off a cliff. All right, so don't step on their dignity, because they're proud people, they're sincere people, they're fearless people, and they're ambitious people. So why would you want to step on their dignity? all right, and ridicule them, because it's just going to make anger, right? You take something that's positive and you turn it into negative, then it defeats the purpose. All right, so let's go on to the next aspect. All right, as we go to our chart. Let's go to our chart. Let me calm down a little. All right, so now Leo's nature, and I have to defend my cold light ruler. I'm the moon, and there's the sun. Well, if I'm supposed to be nurtured by the energies of the sun, and it gives me sunlight, then I have to be very supportive of that sun. See, that's how it works. You support your friends. You look out for people that are looking out for you. That's how it works. How are you going to look out for people that don't look out for you? They don't care. Why should you? All right, but okay, back to the second quadrant, with the sun going through the energy of Leo, which is the natural ruler of the sun, into the second decanate quadrant, which is from 20 degrees. And then Jupiter is the ruling planet of that section. And how does that affect that person? All right, so let's go into the second 10 degrees. Here you have 10 through 20 degrees, and here's where Jupiter comes in. And then it awakens philosophical side if advanced. In other words, if you have been learning or you've been ambitious and then you're pursuing positiveness, then you're advanced. And it wants freedom more than anything else, because why would you take a wild horse and try to put a saddle on him, all right, only to use him as a servant? You take that wild horse, you put a saddle on him, now you limit and take the freedom away from that horse for your own self-aggrandizement. All right, so Jupiter and people want their freedom. Don't fence them in. And if they're willing to give you help, then it's exalted. That's an exaltation. Okay, they will help you if you allow them to. All right, so don't deny them their own personal freedom, because it just prevents them from doing what their energies are indicating. Like the sun. The sun wants to give vitality, but if you put clouds over it, it can't give vitality because it's all inhibited by clouds. And sometimes the clouds have to come to bring the rain. So everything in its order, everything in its place. Okay, over here again with the second 10 degrees, which is 10 to 20 degrees, the planet that rules that sign, the sun, or Leo, is Jupiter. And then it apts to lack good judgment if Jupiter is afflicted. Now, we spoke about afflicted, right? Sometimes these words can confuse you, but it's poorly unaspected or not aspected, right? Remember the trine, the sextile, the conjunction, the square, as opposed to the opposition, okay, 180 degrees, or a square. These poor aspects versus a positive aspect. These are called afflicted, right? It's just a different way that you have to look at the word, but it means poorly aspected. A friendly and sociable fellow, okay? Because here's the jovialness of Jupiter, okay, and the proudness or the ambitiousness, vitality of the sun. So these people want a friendly, sociable person, whether female or male. Open, above board. Okay, so they're not going to consider negative. They're not looking at negative aspects. All right, they're looking at positive aspects. They're looking at growth potential. Okay, ambitiousness, philosophical. These are keywords. Freedom. These are keywords. Good judgment. Friendly, sociable. These are positive, above board words that are going to contribute to these people in moving ahead in their direction. All right. Now let's consider the third aspect. The let's go back to our chart. And the third aspect of the sun going through its 30 degrees for that month is from 21 to 30, and that's Mars. It's the planet that rules this Leo is Mars. Okay, so let's find out what that indicates. Let's go back to our chart. And here we have from 20 to 30 degrees, here's Mars, the ruling planet that rules over Leo. And then it says it strengthens the willpower and adds an impulsiveness. Okay, because here Mars energy is impulsive. It's raw. It's a raw energy. You take raw energy and you develop it. You put it into some kind of form. You develop it so that it can reach its highest art to creativity, and now through Jupiter, which is philosophical or higher wisdom, knowing. But here it's raw, so it would make a person impulsive, not consider what they're doing with that energy. Strengthens willpower, but it adds impulsiveness. So you have a will, but then you can be impulsive if you don't counteract that with something, the opposites of what that impulsiveness can bring. It gives good courage. All right, yeah, because there's a war planet right there, Mars. All right, it's the ego of the energy, and that ego has to be brought to a higher level. Very independent, because that person wants to pursue its goal. Right, that arrow's pointing straight up. Right, it wants to pursue that goal, and will give more than they receive. So they're well giving. They have good intentions. Can unite head and heart if the sun is unafflicted. There's that word again, unafflicted, which means poorly. If it's good aspects to that. And then you'll see how the sun aspects your other energies that you were born with at the time when you were born, which sets where those energies on how they're aspecting each other. This is something worth pursuing because it will help you to identify with where you're at. It's your map, your blueprint, and then further going into it in the aspects will indicate how these influences can make you a better person and where you're coming from as to where you have to go. Okay, that's it for Leo's nature. As we go back to our chart, we'll see we've covered all the aspects under Leo, the basic sun, the Jesus of our solar system. We have Leo ruled by the first degrees from 0 to 10, ruled by its natural ruler of Leo, the sun. We have the second decanate rule under 11 through 20 degrees as the sun passes through that sign, that zodiac sign Leo, for the second degrees, and that's ruled. The ruling planet for that degree is Jupiter. And then we have the third decanate from its last degrees that it's transiting through as it goes from Leo to Virgo, which is next. And then that planet would be Mars, all right, ruling that energy of that degree. And so you see, based on the month, day, and year that you were born, you can actually register in an ephemeris what degree, minute, and seconds that energy was passing through on that particular day, and then see what decanate you fall into. And then that would be able to help you to put in proportion what your energies is, so that you can help yourself. All right, ain't no Jesus coming back to help you. You need to help yourself. Understand that. All right, let's move on. Okay, let's continue with our research into the decanates, as each sign of the 12 signs equal 360 degrees, And now each sign is broken down into decanates, which are 10-degree intervals of 30 degrees. Each sign equals 30 degrees. 12 times 30 is 360 degrees. Okay, so in our next awareness, Virgo's next. Let's see if our color comes in. Oh yeah, it came in. And Virgo is, okay, there's two things. You have a duality going on, but we're going to emphasize on, we're going to actually focus on what we're supposed to do, but I want to give you an entry about Mercury. Now, up here you see Mercury ruling Gemini. That's extroverted. In other words, most flies, you'll see flies or butterflies, flying around, birds. They're flying around. Bird is a good keyword too. Birds. I don't mean to put down Geminis, but sometimes they could be irritating. Like the new President Trump, he's a Gemini. All right. So right now he's a fly. He's not like a bird. He's not like a butterfly. He's like a fly. So Mercury is extroverted, but they're gateways to heaven. So if they don't utilize the gateway to heaven, then they're mischief makers. All right, they're like Gotham City demons or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to call them. They're not doing their job. All right, the Geminis need to educate people, but I'm not going to get into Gemini. I just want to show you the difference between how Mercury is ruling Gemini as an air sign and how Mercury now, in our next focus, which is Virgo, is ruling an earth sign. Okay, and as Mercury rules the earth sign, it actually brings discrimination. All right, it allows you to see patterns and analyze and being analytical about things. Right, where here Gemini is not focusing on one subject. It only takes the surface subjects. Well, over here Mercury in Virgo allows you to go deep into the subject, like you're a scientist in a lab, performing an experiment. Okay, they're very analytical in pursuit of things that have to do with detail. So it makes them very detail oriented, where over here Mercury and Gemini, they're not really that detailed. They're very smart. They can take surface stuff and make it work for them. But here, where you in introverted Virgo, they're more analytical about what the subject pertains to, and thereby giving you more information, more accurate information also. Facts over fiction. Okay, you need the facts to establish, or you need the details, good details to establish good facts. All right, so in the first 10 degrees of the sun going through the season of summer. Now we went through spring, which is Aries, Taurus, and part of Gemini. And then we went in from the other part of Gemini into summer, which is Gemini, the last part of Gemini, Cancer and Leo. And now we're entering the season of autumn, okay, which is in effect another springtime, but going into winter. All right, but you'll understand that later. But let's focus on the decadent degrees and how it influences the people that are born in particular degrees in an ephemeris, that they were born month, day, and year in the calendar of an ephemeris, and it shows you what degree those energies were in or are in at that particular time when you were born. And so is it in 0 to 10 degrees the sun is transiting through in Virgo? Is it 11 to 20 degrees that the sun is in? Or is it 21 to 30 degrees? All right, there's only 30 degrees to a sign, so it can't be any more than that. So it has to be in one of these three sections, right? Now let's further analyze the situation. Under Virgo, with Mercury under Virgo in the first degrees, from 0 to 10 degrees, you'll see that Let's go to our chart. Chart 2. Now, Virgo, from 0 to 10 degrees, it's ruled by its natural planetary ruler, Mercury, but in an analytical, detailed fashion. And so that promotes, they're quiet, because when you're working in a lab, you don't need a whole lot of noise and all of that. You be in a quiet environment because you want to analyze the situation. They're reserved and they're shy in nature. Okay. Needs the help of others to achieve goals and objectives. Of course, you would need the help of others. No man is an island. No female is an island either. Okay? And there's a song, that goes with that. But they need the help of others, because how are you going to get data if you don't need the help of others to achieve goals and objectives? You got to accumulate data. Like, you're on a mission to get various parts of the information that leads to the whole. All right, so that I agree with. That analyzation of details promotes fact. And that's where you're going to find it operating in Virgo. Blueprints, maps, things that can get you from one place to another. GPS. All right. Lacks self-confidence. Okay, again, it has everything to do with emotions. If you know yourself, you're not going to lack confidence. You're going to have confidence. If you know yourself and is confident about things, then you're going to be self-confident, not lack confidence. So these are the things that Virgo has to work on. They are working on an internal registry. They are internalizing everything, and now they have to put their feelers out to people on the outside relating to that fact, those facts, those analyzations, or those subject categories. Okay, self-centered. Okay, because you would tend to, be introverted. You would tend to want to draw inward to self-discovery, to discover other things. And the first rule is to yourself. So if you can understand stuff, then you can get that information to other people. All right? And by getting that information to other people, now you become in service to those people. And which relates to the service energy of Virgo. It is a serving energy. All right? But they can't give information inadequately to serve. So they have to become self-centered and need to include others in their world. Okay, they need to include others in their world for the fact finds, to establish, and also for the social ability. But their test is basically to find the facts, to register the facts, to be analytical and detail oriented. And in order to do that, you got to be a little self-centered. You have to be a little quiet, a little reserved, shy in nature. Okay, they're not too quick to, but all right, I can relate to shyness. What else? And so, this is very important to understand. Anyone that is born within this degree would probably surely agree, and then is helped by that information. Okay, they're in service to others. Now, we're talking about armed forces. We're talking about your health arena. Your CNAs. You're talking about your doctors and your nurses. All of these are Virgo oriented. All right? The service to others. All right? Serve. Now, Pisces, their opposite, is serve or suffer. But Virgo is serve. And if they're not serving, then they're going to come up with mental problems. They're going to have problems that they need to dig deep to find the answers. All right? Get your natal chart done. Find out who you are. All right. So the second part of that, let's go into from the 10 to the 20th degree. And that's ruled by Saturn. So let's go to our chart. And so Virgo under 11 degrees to 20 degrees is ruled by Saturn. Now, there are different sections analyzing the situation. There are in Virgo, the sun is shining in the degrees of Virgo. Now it's passing through the 11th degree throughout its 20th degree. And those people that are born at that time are relating to the planet Saturn. And so what does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, so that means from 10 to 20, relating to the planet Saturn, it accentuates practicality and business interests. In other words, you're going to want to refine, practicality and business interests. You got the detail to work with, accentuates the business aspect of it. And note aspects to Saturn, because Saturn will give that energy even more vitality, that more energy. Because Saturn is the tester. It'll either pass you on or leave you back. All right, that is the universal tester. And most people think it's evil, but you would tend to be thinking it is. But it's the tester, it's the universal tester, that we need to pass these tests of consciousness and know what our purposes are in order to pursue them. And if your purpose is needless, then you're going to get left back. All right, you can't go from kindergarten to first grade and not knowing what kindergarten stuff is. All right, the same as when you come out in high school. But if they teach the right information, people will be willing to learn. All right, so there's limitations to what we can learn and what not. And if we're learning the correct information, then Saturn can pass you on, and then you can graduate. All right, makes an excellent teacher, okay, because they are the taskmasters. They are the teachers. They're either going to teach you or they're going to fail you. All right. Selfishness strong if Saturn is afflicted. There's that word again. Unaspected. Okay. So you have a Saturn badly aspecting Mercury. Then you have to look into that. And the only way you're going to see that is to actually look in an ephemeris, know how to break down your energy levels based on 360 degrees, and then computate that into how that energy is relating to the energy of Saturn. Now, Saturn is a certain degree, and so is Mercury. The difference between those degrees will give you an aspect, we'll say, which will describe whether that is a good aspect or a bad aspect. And that means that if it's good or bad, you need to be conscious of it through that detail. Now, we'll go over calculations later, but right now I'm just giving you little clues as to what and how that registers and how that needs to be done. Needs to watch negativity and depressive moods. Of course, if you're all work and no play makes Jack a dull dog and Jane a dull cat. Okay, so you gotta tamper this with like a good outlet, like exercise, because it's Virgo. Most Virgos need to exercise, or they need to have fun. They spend too much time analyzing and overanalyze, and then that leads to negativity. Okay, depressive moods. So you got to be conscious of that. Plus, Saturn is kind of limiting, so it limits what you are capable of doing. And because it's a tester. Now, Saturn is an earth sign because it rules Capricorn, and then Virgo is an earth sign also. So it's going for practicality. It's definitely practicality. And then business pursuits is definitely Capricorn. And those are keywords that relate to how they come up with this synopsis of idea. And there's other things. It's just keys into finding out how these decanates relate to these energies, and it gives you some idea of how it works for you. Okay, so let's go on to our next part, which is 20 through 30 degrees, operating through the energies the sun operating through energies of Virgo from its 20th degree throughout its 30th degree or 29th degree. And then it is operative in Venus. Okay, in Venus, let's go to our chart. Okay, as you can see, the sign Virgo, the sun is shining through the last part of the 30 degrees that relate to that sign. And Venus, the planet, is in charge of that section. That's what it means. Okay, so now Venus has already been, let's see if let's go back to our analyzation. Okay, and Venus, we're gonna have to go to the next page. Okay, from 20 to 30 degrees is ruled by Venus, as described above. It makes them, because Venus is art. You know, they're very artsy, very sociable. So it has to do with aesthetics or beauty. So I can see how it would make the Virgo more artistically inclined, less self-centered than the other decanates of Virgo. Right, because it has the social ability of Venus interplaying in the last parts of the degree. So you could see how now at the last part of the degrees it's headed for the next sign, which is, let's go to our chart, which is the next sign is Libra. So it would have everything to do with the next energies of the next pursuing sign, which is Libra. And Libra has everything to do with social ability, art, and aesthetics. So that's how it relates to, that energy relates to Virgo in that aspect, because it has gone through all of the pretty much lessons of analyzing the subject through the first degrees, the second degrees. Now it's at its last part of degrees, and now wants to register that and bring it into the next sign. Okay, so we're going to pause here and then go into the next page. Okay, let's interconnect the last page, because we were at Virgo at 20 to 30 and then we had to change pages. All right, Venus is in charge of that aspect of it, and here's Virgo, and Venus right here is at the last degrees, 21 through 30 degrees, and it's definitely pursuing social ability, being friendly. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Libra. All right, autumn. There we go. And Libra is an air sign. So we went from a fire sign to an earth sign to an air sign to a water sign. Then we went from a fire sign to an earth sign to an air sign, and now we're in an air sign, Libra. Okay, and Libra is naturally ruled by the planet Venus. All right, as now Venus is in the first, from 0 to 10 degrees, and it's decadent as the sun, okay, is transiting. Let me see if I can indicate that. Okay, for you. There. That's the sun. As the sun is transiting through Venus. Okay, Libra, it's transiting through this degree at this particular time, and it's influencing Venus. The sun is ruled Venus, that rules this planet, rules this sign. Okay, so that's the trend. The sun sign, this is a symbol for the sun, is in this quadrant between 10 degrees 0 and 10 degrees, and this is the ruling planet, and it's ruling over Libra. Okay, and let's see what that says. From 0 to 10 is ruled by Venus, and it gives a good disposition, strong intuitive powers. So in other words, you can pull those ideas out of the air, so to speak, because it's an air sign. And kind of like they're known for like meddling also. They can get into, you can't limit air. Air gets in everywhere. It goes everywhere. But in the person, in the energy, it kind of is sometimes a busybody. All right, Libra is there to balance, so it's aware of relationships, and in the 7th house in the natal chart is aware of business partnerships, marriage partnerships, and then open enemies as well. So it gives strong intuitive powers, refined and cultured in nature. Well, the aesthetics or the aesthetic beauty that Venus presents in a chart through an energy will present itself as a refined, right here, Venus is refined and cultured in nature, because now it has to deal with social ability, so it has to refine its ability. Like you'll find most lawyers or marriage counselors, in this area, like to balance people. They're always in the middle of balancing something, or always looking for the other side of themselves, and only need to find it in themselves first. But that's here or there. Let's keep our focus. The eye focus is the first 10 degrees of the sun transiting through the sign Libra will indicate that they need to work in associating with others, because now you're actually coming out of subjective awareness into objective awareness through Venus and through the 7th house. And Libra rules the 7th house in the natal chart. So that's the beginning of objective awareness, and you would be attracted to people, and you would need to work in association with others. Like a lawyer would have to be in contact with his clients, and it would make you very artistic. So again, the Venus aspect would bring in the art ability, artistic ability. You may not even be an artist, but you may have appreciation for art. That Venus will give it to you. And in Libra, it's almost certain that this person would have artistic abilities. Very artistic. Okay? Alright, so now we're back at Libra, and we'll give it that pink color. So we'll go to Libra. I took that out because it could be confusing. Alright, so there. So now we're back at Libra. We discussed from 0 to 10 degrees. It's under its natural ruler of Venus in Libra. Venus does rule Libra. Well, let me show you another aspect of that. Now, remember we had the duality between Mercury and Mercury. Mercury here, Virgo, and then Gemini. Exterior, interior, introverted, extroverted. Well, here we have the same thing with Venus. Venus rules 2 planets. It rules Taurus, okay, and it rules Libra. Now here's an external, and here's an internal. Okay, so Venus does the same thing, but where most Taurians like to be like quiet, reserved, but when in pursuit of something, and they usually are in pursuit of the same subject or same interests. Here you have Libra mixing with others, and the Venus quality mixes in Libra for sociability and externally through partnerships, business transactions, lawyers, anything that interacts with people. All right, so let's find out what that characteristics mean. This characteristics mean in this characteristic. All right. Well, we already discussed this first characteristics. Now we're going to go into the second part of, as the sun transits through its 11th degree in the sign Libra, its effect, or the planet that rules that section, would be Uranus. Now here we have kind of like an intelligence, okay, because Uranus is kind of an oddball. The planet is tipped to its side due to some kind of cosmic storm. But just like Saturn's rings are like around it, Uranus is like on its side, and the rings are going around on its side. It shows you kind of type of people they are. Aquarius is, odd, to say the least, but intelligent geniuses. So now we put this energy together, Uranus, with Libra, and these two are both air signs. Then you have what you call intelligence. So let's see how that mixes with the description. Okay, so now we have Libra under the influence in the second degrees, or second decadent as they call it, at 10 degrees to 20 degrees. And here's Uranus, that planet I was telling you that the planet Uranus, if you check it out, you'll see, go online, Google it, you'll see the planet is tipped on its side, and the rings are different from Saturn's going around. The rings go around on its side, like up and down. And then this is strong-minded. Okay, it indicates strong-minded, more controlled by reason than emotion. Because, Libra is an air sign. It's not emotional, too emotional. And you can throw it on this other side, because there's two sides to Libra. And then, you'll find the other one. You'll find good boxes, actually in the first quadrant, good boxes being Librans, because they can throw themselves on the other side of themselves, and then, that personality will be a good boxer. But we're talking about the second quadrant. So we're talking about a strong-minded individual, female or male, more controlled by reason than emotion, because they're reasonable. They want to be reasonable. They want to intellectualize it. And then it's good mind, but not free-flowing in nature. Now that is not free-flowing in nature. I don't know. Well, we have to look deeper into that to see what that means. All right, we'll look into the sign. I'm just putting two air signs together. The aesthetic, artistic ability, and the kind of the bohemian, freedom-loving Aquarian, Uranus from the Aquarians. So they would tend to want to be free-flowing to me. Organizes the life out of projects. Okay, so I already see if they're in a project mode, then Uranus itself is coming out of Saturn. It's more of a Saturn attribute, because now they're trying to organize stuff, right? And they have the ability to think. All right, think these things through, which is Libra and Uranus. So they're good minds that organizes things and life out of projects. So they have to have these projects going. Better for a male's chart than a female's chart. Feminine females too masculine in approach. Well, Uranus is a masculine planet, so here it is affecting a female planet. It would make that planet more masculine. So if this is Venus, then you have Uranus influencing it, then that female would be kind of masculine. She would take a masculine approach. That's correct, because that's a masculine planet, and being that it's a higher arc planet, it would have more control over the feminine capabilities, and that would make that person come out more masculine. That female will come out more masculine. Now, when a man's is better for a male's chart because it's a masculine sign, and so the femininity in the male would operate more masculine as a man rather than a female acting like a man. Okay, let's go back to our chart. And now we see the third aspect as the sun transits through the last decanate, which is 21 to 29 or 30 degrees. And that planet rules that section. In other words, when the sun is passing through these degrees in this sign, the ruling planet would be Mercury. And Mercury is shaping the way this person is behaving at that time. Now, a person's born around this time in the 21 to 29, 30 degree would be influenced by this Mercury, which is ruling these Librans. Let's see what that says. And so here we have 20 through 30, and here's Mercury, okay, in air sign. And then it says adaptable and versatile in expression, but can be too airy. Yeah, because you have the Libran air, then you have the Mercury air. It's like way too much air. There's a lot of air. There's no air. You got all kinds of elements: fire, earth, air, and water. So you have to have a balance of energies. If you have too much of something, you're lacking something else. So they're versatile, they're adaptable and versatile in expression, but can be too airy, which is airheads. You ever hear of an airhead? You know what I mean? Find it difficult to settle down and finish projects. See? And that's Uranus, because that Mercury, in other words, no, that's Mercury, because Mercury is like remember we were talking about the bird, the fly, and the social butterfly. So if they're socializing too much with the Venus influence, how are they going to sit down and finish projects? That makes sense. So finds it difficult to settle down and finish projects is actually dead on. All right. So with this person knowing this, they can also, discipline themselves to take that intelligence that they have and refine it into finishing projects. Everything can be adjusted once you're aware of and conscious of it. So if you're not conscious of this avenue, then you'll keep going around being too airy, being too sociable, and not paying attention to finishing projects. And that will happen until you realize what this is saying. They make good reporters. As you can see, they have that social ability, like to get out and about, move around. So they would make good reporters and journalists, and very intuitive. So they would tend to take that Mercury and that Venus and make that work for them. They're very restless in nature because Venus, okay, let's go back to our chart here. Okay, Venus under Libra, and then Mercury, air, and then, over here, Venus, which is an air sign, naturally rules over Libra. It would make that person too airy, air on air. And so they would have to, they would want to, be something like reporters, or something that gives them, keeps them moving around. I would say that would be the social butterfly. That would be the, person that gets around and reports and gets into stuff, and with the Venus quality, of being meddlesome. They like to meddle in other people's, business. Then you can see how the good reporter and the meddler Venus aspects would definitely match. they're very intuitive. They can be very intuitive, right? Intuition, male or female intuition. They have insight, airy insight into what's next. Very restless in nature because they need to move around, and especially if there are strong aspects to Uranus. Now here we're using the magic word aspects instead of unafflicted, because aspects are the keys to understanding how these two energies mix. All right, Venus and Mercury. All right, let's go back to the chart, show you what I'm talking about. All right, Venus and Mercury, because now we're talking about this quadrant. These people that are born with the sun and these energies have this planet ruling this sign under this planet. But this planet is ruling. So it's the Mercurial energies having to do with the Libra and sociability. See where the reporter, the journalist comes in at, the meddler, because they're aware of relationships, or they're usually set in as a balance to relationships. So I would think that they would be reporting about some kind of relationship problems. Well, that's one possibility. Okay, so that completes Libra going through its 0 to 10 degrees, ruled by Venus, its natural ruler of Libra. Then the second part of it would be Uranus. Okay, and Uranus would be more like this, because Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So you can imagine more air here on Libra. It's a wonder if they ever finish anything. They're always moving around and, try to read a book. Talking about antsy. Okay, but Libra over here, but there's serious intelligence going on between these two planets. And then that's the second. So these people born with the sun in these energies in Libra would definitely have to be disciplined or try to practice some kind of discipline to finish something. And then over here, they're same, but they're more going towards Scorpio. All right, and these energies are more Scorpio oriented, which is more Mercurial researching. So it brings them more into a studious capacity as they get further along into these degrees, heading towards the next sign, which is Scorpio. Okay, as we continue our exploration into the decanates through the signs and the planetary rulers of those individual 3 decanates, I'd like to introduce myself as Astro Prep Future Keys Productions. My name is EJ Lasassier, and I'm your Cosmic Guide. Okay. So now we have the emphasis of the sun. Going through the sign of Scorpio. And let me do some recap. First of all, we're in a particular season. So we have Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Okay, spring. Then we got summer. Last part of Gemini, Cancer, Leo. That's summer. Then we got the last part of Leo, Virgo, Libra. That's autumn. And now we're kind of going into like that wintry mix. All right, but we're still not quite out of the autumn. Right, and the first part of Scorpio is pretty much autumn, and the early phases of winter is coming in. So you'll see the seasons as they transmute through the energies, through the sun signs of a person. Now, when you get into most people get into astrological energies, they only emphasize on the sun sign, vitality. And here I'm taking it a step further and giving you the decanates degrees of when a person's born. Now, if you have an ephemeris as a recap, an ephemeris is a calendar, but what it does is it logs planetary degrees, minutes, and seconds when a person was born. So that degree, minutes, and seconds has everything to do with your individuality. So you may fall under a particular sun sign, but then you have a degree that you were born under, which gives you your individuality. All right, so these decanates will show you the degree that the sun sign was in, even under that particular sun sign, which is only representing vitality. All right, now a plant is energized by the photosynthesis that the sun makes that plant grow, and then that plant produces oxygen. If it has influence over a plant, all right, these people are born at a particular season can be related as a plant, because photosynthesis affects you just like the sun affects plants. It gives you vitality, it gives you energy. So the relationship between the sun and you is that you are part of nature. You understand? You are part of nature. You're not excluded from nature. You're here made of the same elements of the earth. And the sun and the planets are relating to you on those levels. Each person that was born in a particular season is like a plant growing in that season. All right, so the first 10 degrees of the sun transiting through the sign Scorpio. Okay, most people don't realize that your sun sign, one part of 360 degrees, all right, you have, people forget when they do basic astrology, they're looking up their signs, they're only looking up their sun sign, which can be very generalized. When you're looking up energies, then you need to find an ephemeris to find out what the other energies are, like the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And then you will have a better idea of what your individuality is, as opposed to just a basic sun sign. And that's why people, they don't take enough time to really get into themselves. They'll master everything but themselves. And then when it comes to the end of it, and then you have to transfer out of this body, this physical body, into a spirit, back to spirit. You're a spirit experiencing a physical experience, not a physical experience experiencing a spiritual experience. Then you have to return back to what you came from. So you have to understand where these energies partake in your creation, because you are of the earth and being influenced by these planets. It's that simple. That's why I come up with lessons like this, to teach others from what I've learned or learning, because you can never learn this stuff in one lifetime. This is very deep stuff, all right, and it encapsulates everything. You're talking about everything: geology, physics, everything that you've learned. You learned it wrong in school. They didn't begin to teach you what you need to know about how this relates to you. If they taught correct way, everybody would be interested in this. But they teach you what you want to know to make you a puppet, a freaking drone for them, so that you can do their bidding. You need to know how you are and how these energies of God relate to you. Not in some kind of picture form where they describe something to you that isn't. It's a fantasy. You might as well believe in Jack and Jill, in the freaking Wizard of Oz, or something that's storytelling. That has nothing to do with the reality. It's only fantasy. Getting back to our focus again, I can't help but go off every once in a while, because the whole lessons, if I knew this in my earliest stages when I was learning in elementary school, through high school, through college, I would have more information than I have now. So this is my attempt to try to teach others what I've learned and what I'm learning, because we're headed towards the Aquarian age, and we're coming out of the fantasy trip of illusions, out of that fog in the Piscean age where you believe in something that's not true. All right. Now, all right, so Scorpio has two rulers, and I really don't care whether they rule Pluto as not a planet. I think Pluto is out there and is registering at 248 or 249 years that it has to transit around a natal chart, and it has everything to do with metamorphosis and changes. And if you don't see it in that perspective, then you're seeing it from a lesser perspective. But Pluto has everything to do with Scorpio, because it is the student, the social scientist. It's like a alien analyzing people on Earth. Scorpions are deep, and they're very deep. They're one of the water signs. You have Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces is the water signs. But because Scorpio is so intense, they're intense about their energies, it's more of a Pluto energy that they're coming from. A Plutonian energy that is way beyond the basic energies of Mars. But we attribute both because they co-rule each other. All right, Mars co-rules Pluto, Pluto co-rules Mars. And so I guess to keep things in line with the water element, it has three elements: solid, liquids, and gas. So these water signs can be solid, liquids, and gas. They can occupy different elements, and the planetary rulerships that rule them can also occupy these particular elements that are also interchangeable. But that goes deeper, and those are deeper lessons. The elements affect an energy. All right, but let's keep it simple and relate to the degrees in a certain quadrant that is ruling over a particular sign, sun sign. So the sun is going through from 0 to 10 degrees in Scorpio. So if you're born in the first 10 degrees being a Scorpio, then you're considered to be ruled by Mars. Okay, and so let's see how that relates. Okay, under Scorpio, and you have 0 through 10 degrees, Mars, the Martian energy, makes this Scorpio reserved, secretive, outwardly calm, but seething emotions inward. Strong emotions to be devil or saint. You can either be very strong towards helping humanity, or being the total opposite of dealing with humanity. It's your choice. But you can be devil, saint, or because to know what this water element's capabilities are is deadly. It could be deadly or really, really live to teach you the metaphysics of life, and to teach you things that you would. Okay, so if it's really important that a person of this water element be aware of what its strong, deep inner capabilities are. And with the Mars energy, you can almost, this raw energy. So if you're shaping something that you know nothing of, water, boiling in water. So there's where the devil comes in at. But hell is not. When you think about hell, you think about heat. But hell in this life is winter. Okay? When it's real cold, that's hell. When everything shuts down, there's nothing growing. That's hell. So we're all confused. They confused us so much and indoctrinated so much with such bullshit, literally, that we are confused. And they want to keep us that way as cattle, so they can keep using us, using our spiritual energies to do what they want to do. And I'm just expressing the energies, the high intense energies of Scorpio boiling in Mars. Right? So you can see there's somewhere in between. to know what pathway the individual takes, the total chart has to be considered for sure. See what direction this person is willing to do to advance themselves, if they have the objective to pursue it. You know, it's a very, very intense influence, and sometimes they go from one extreme to another in the same lifetime. All right, these are the people that be threatened with their life, or they will take chances that will put other people's lives at risk if they're not operating correctly, if they're not in full consciousness, where it says their whole chart has to be considered. That is for sure. You need to consider the whole chart and see where this person is headed. The total chart has to be totally considered. And then sometimes they go from one extreme to another, because that is a water sign, and they're like psychic sponges too. When they pick up a vibration in the air and they feel like they're being attacked, they'll attack first. Think of a scorpion with a stinger. Okay, now the scorpion has different levels. These black widow spiders, there's the one without the stinger, there's the one with the stinger. There's all types of scorpions. There's the eagle, there's a high-flying phoenix that dies in the ashes to be renewed. There's all kinds of considerations going on with Scorpio. That's why there's and no in between. They're either devil or saint, no in between. They're one way or the other way. It's difficult. But there are all levels of scorpions. You know, we're talking about from scorpions to spiders to snakes to eagles and to phoenix. You know, and so you have to make sure what this person is. That's because their planet Pluto is riding on a different realm out there. It doesn't even float too much into the ecliptic. Alright, the sun follows the ecliptic, and so do the planets. The planets follow the ecliptic. Alright, and they stay close into the ecliptic. This is how we can see the seasons and how people are born. It has nothing to do with the constellations. The constellations are just guideposts. You know, taking pictures to give you references into what space you are in space and time. But the seasons register the real dynamics, because it's operating with personalities based on how these energies are affecting people. Alright, so let's go on. It says sometimes they will go from one extreme to the other in the same lifetime. Saint Francis of Assisi is an example, whatever that story is. Okay, you may want to look into that as this person going through from 0 to 10 degrees of the sun, going through 0 to 10 degrees of this decadent. Okay, let's go back to our chart. And now we enter the second decadent of the sun going through its degrees, and starts at 11 through 20 degrees. And now it's in a different area where it's ruled by Neptune. Now here again you have, let's kind of like put these elements together, these energies together. Neptune is is ruling 2 planets. Alright, the energy is versatile here because it rules fire, which is Sagittarius, co-rules Jupiter or Sagittarians, and rules Neptune, Pisces, which is water. So here's a water element operating in Scorpio, which is another water element. And then Neptune is kind of like way out there. And so because Scorpio is out there, they're neighbors. And so what is the true meaning of the energies that prevail with Neptune ruling in from 11 to 20 degrees in this particular sign, Scorpio? Well, let's see. What is it? Okay, from 10 or 11 to 20 degrees, it's ruled by, this Scorpio is ruled by the energies of Neptune. And this must be judged by the aspects between Mars and Neptune for sure. Now, this is getting a little deeper. You're basically going through the first lessons of how energies travel through a particular sun sign. It's called decanates. And then you have different degrees of 10 degrees, which adds up to totally of 30 degrees in a particular sign. But we haven't gotten into aspects yet. And aspects are a key entry into how these energies are aspecting one another. Okay, and I gave you clues to it earlier, which is each number, everything operates within a vacuum of 360 degrees. Now, Mars equals the sign that Mars is going through equals a particular degree, and so does Neptune. And when you calculate the difference between the two, you come up with an aspect, a trine, a square, an opposition, a sextile, a conjunction. And that will tell you pretty much how to determine how this Neptune is affecting this person as a sun sign in Scorpio. Okay, so that's to be seen. And this person could be an advanced type, spending their energies in sacrifice and service to the race, of course, because if it's saint, it's gonna do everything like a phoenix dying in the ashes to be renewed to make itself even better. Like from the ego level, overseeing other people's rights to justice. That's one. Now, if you have a Scorpio that is a justice seeker, then that's what you're talking about. You're talking about a person that will sacrifice in service to the race. And then if he's acting in a depraved, destroying others as well as himself, well, that's devil, because everything opposite life is evil. The general tone of the chart will tell the story for sure. For this person definitely has to be into metaphysics. Scorpios are known to get into astronomy, but I think that they should get into the personality base through astrology. Now, you can't divide astronomy with astrology. They're both the same. They're talking about God's energies and how it relates to us on this planet. We'll venture into the next quadrant of how Scorpio, let's go to our chart, how Scorpio is now coming out of Neptune, the second quadrant of the degrees, and going into the third quadrant, 21 through 30 degrees. And now the moon has everything to do with the Scorpion nature in that sun sign, Scorpio. Okay, those people born month, day, and year will determine from an ephemeris what energies and what degrees of those energies are traveling through. The people that already know this, they're doing aspects and beyond. But for people that are just learning this, they can see the difference between just basic sun signs, and now you're seeing the difference on how these energies in different degrees are affecting you by different planetary energies having rulership of those degrees. So in this particular instant, the moon has rulership over the 21 degrees through 29 or 30 degrees, and it's ruling over the sign Scorpio. And so let's see what that says. This page is ruled by the moon, and it says much more sympathy because of the emotional nature. The moon is a nurturing energy, and so it adds more sympathy and kindness than the other two decanates, because now it's pushing them to be concerned about others through their emotions. And even though the emotions, here's two water energies. The moon relates to the water energies, which is Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, the trinity of water. And it relates to these at different levels, different frequencies, like you're at a stove and you're turning up the fire to relate to different levels so you can cook. Same with the moon. The moon relates to different degrees and influences a person at those degree levels. Psychically, it makes them very sensitive, all right, because these people can be very psychic and sensitive to their psychic. But again, they become that sponge if they know nothing of where this stuff is coming from. They're not able to relate to where they are different and how other people are influenced them through emotion. They have to be in full knowledge of what the difference is between where their emotions end and where other people's psychic abilities or feelings that they're picking up end. Alright? Psychically very sensitive. That's what that means. Good aspects between the moon and Mars will have to be considered. And so we'll take a break and then go on to the next page. See you on this. Okay, we left off at Scorpio. Now we had to switch pages, so we have the moon. Scorpio is at 21 through 30 degrees. The sun is going through its 21st through 29, 30 degrees. And the ruling planet that rules in this quadrant over this decanate is the moon. And so we were discussing how Scorpio, the influence of this moon on Scorpio was. So we're going to go back to the chart that the 20 to 30 degrees is ruled by the moon, was much more sympathetic and kindness than in the other two decanates. She or he is psychically very sensitive based on the moon and how the moon, as we mentioned before, how the moon is very nurturing and how this is a water sign ruling over right now Scorpio, so it's one of the trinity of water signs. Okay, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Okay, and then it says that it's with good aspects between the moon and Mars. As aspects will be considered in a future lesson. But aspects are essential, is key to understanding how the moon and Mars being aspects to one another. So let's go on to the next. All of the water signs are definitely going through an initiation for emotion. And each of them, all the trinity, the Cancer, the Scorpio, and the Pisces, all register a different frequency of lessons that they have to learn while they're in these water signs. And that's what we're talking about, frequencies of power. The psychic power is what you pick up based on what your knowledge is within these signs, and that helps us to strengthen it. But if you have two, let's say water signs, let's say you have two water signs, which is in this case Scorpio and the moon, well, that promotes more psychicness. Alright, and it would make that person very psychic. But at the same time, the 21 through 30 is actually the moon transitioning to the next sign of Sagittarius. Okay, so let us continue with that. So let's emphasize on Sagittarius. We'll give it a nice lavender or purple color. Okay, and in Sagittarius, again, we have the sun, is our main emphasis. All of the planets transit at different speeds. They operate at different cycles. So actually I went and got a chart that will show you the different speeds. Now we're talking about the sun right here. The sun, and it says it goes 1 degree of longitude per day. That's the ephemeris. Transits all of signs once a year. Okay, that's the sun. So as you can see, when the sun goes into this sign, all right, it'll go in for 1 month. And here's the breakdown of the month, depending on how the degrees of the decanates are influencing that planet. All right, now we go back to planet. This planet right here, okay, is the sun in a symbol form. All right, but then when you consider all the rest of the planets, okay, that have everything to do with how these energies to come into play. We're only talking about just the sun sign, and this is what I brought this up, because this is just sun sign going through its decanates. All right, the decanates that you were seeing is 0 to 10, 11 to 20, and 21 to 30. That covers all of these. So each one of these are going through their own cycle. Like, let's say the moon. Now if we pull up the moon, you'll see those The moon is 2 to 3 days per sign, makes one complete revolution through all of the signs in 28 1/3 day. That's the moon. Okay, so now we consider Mercury. Okay, Mercury goes through 14 through 20 days per sign, and that's 66 through 130 minutes of longitude per day. Okay, but generally you want to look at this right here. It's 14 to 20 days per sign. And that's this transit, right? Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, but then the moon is the closest planet, or satellite as we call it, to the Earth. All right, and so now when we consider the next sign, okay, we'll go here and we'll consider Venus. Now we spoke about Venus and how it's interacting, and how these decanates take these planets in these particular degrees. Well, this planet right here Venus transits 62 through 82 minutes of longitude per day. But here's what you want to emphasize: about 28 days per sign. So if you look at this 28 days, and then look at the moon 28 1/3 days, you can see it in the sky. And here's the transit: 28 days per sign, and then here's 2.3 days per sign. So there's a difference, because this spends 28 days per sign, and the moon spends 2.3 days per sign. So you can see how fast the moon is moving as opposed to Venus. But they do their completion. They complete one cycle. Venus completes one cycle in 28 days, whereas moon goes through all of the signs in 28 1/3 days. All right, so I'll show you the difference in planets. Here's Mars as a symbol, right? And this is part of the Modone chain, which is the earthly chain, and this is the Aquarian chain. These are all outer planets that were recently discovered. Okay, but still has everything to do with the vibrations that are on people on the 31 through 41 minutes of longitude per day. But here's what you want to really consider: 22 months through all of the signs. Now we're up to Jupiter. So Jupiter takes 12 years to transit all of the signs, thereby dividing 12 years, or 12, into all of the 12 signs. And it says one sign per year, which that's what this comes out. If you divide it, comes out to one sign per year, and that's a long transit Jupiter. Now Saturn is kind of like the opposite of the moon, but in all of its transits, Saturn takes 29 1/2 years to transit all of the signs, about 1 degree per month in each sign. That's something. So here's Saturn right here at the end of the Muldoon chain. Then now we go into Uranus, all right, which is really worth considering. Uranus is 84 years through all of the signs, about 1/2 degree or 30 minutes per month in each sign. That's how huge our solar system is. And then we go to Neptune. Let me show you what Neptune looks like. Neptune is right here. That's the symbol for Neptune. And we're coming back to our chart. Neptune takes 165 years to go through all of the signs, and about 2 degrees per year for each sign. And then right Pluto, there. That's usually PL is by the person that discovered it. Usually Pluto is like Neptune, but it has a circle in the middle right here. It looks just like this, but a circle in the middle. Okay, and it takes 248 years to transit all of the signs. The average is about 20 years per sign. And look at that cycle. So that's pretty long. All right, so let's get back to our lesson. I'll just give you an idea of what that is. Sagittarius. Sagittarius, its natural ruler is Jupiter. And for the first 0, from the first 10 degrees, it is ruled by its Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And then, so let's see what that has to say about the first 0 to 10 degrees is ruled by Jupiter. It makes the person talkative. It's a talker and a traveler. A traveling salesman. That's what it sounds like. Very restless, easily bored. Okay, because he wants to, like, that's that wild horse without a saddle. He wants to gallop and go to as many cowboy movies he can get. Now, he can just wander. They like to travel. They're basically Sagittarian, and Pisces is called the transatlantic travelers. They're more likely to travel into space because they cover long distances. And then Jupiter is a long distance travel, so they're basically travelers. Very restless, like to move around, easily bored, because they get bored with simple stuff. Wants to be on the move. So this indication from 0 to 10 is definitely wants to be on the move. They're friendly, gossipy, sociable. All right, these people are like town criers. Paul Revere must have been a Sagittarius, because he was like to move around a lot, gossipy, and sociable. But needs a strong Saturn to give depth, because remember, Saturn actually creates a limitation. So when you have the planet Saturn working against Jupiter, it kind of slows Jupiter down. All right, but by slowing Jupiter down, you also give it depth. Where it's not so restless, easily bored. It makes that energy manufacture something, do something with it. They're very intuitive. They have very intuitive intuition's nature. Optimistic salesman type. Just what I said, the wandering salesman. All right, so let's go back to our chart. And the second part of that is 11 through 20 degrees. And so as the sun transits through the sign Sagittarius, it is ruled by its natural planet, which is Jupiter. But in the second quadrant, or the Decanate as they call it, the second 10 degrees, which is another name for Decanate, 10 degree sections, then it's ruled by Mars. Okay, so Mars now adds a mix to how, when these people are born between these degrees in Sagittarius, how it affects them. So let's look at that and see. The second 10 degrees is from 10 to 20. It's ruled by Mars, and this is the pioneer, because Mars rules Aries, the pioneer, in teaching or in new trends in philosophy or religious thought. So we're talking about new trends. We're talking about pioneer. That's a key word for Aries, because of Mars. Teaching is definitely Sagittarian, although Aries are good teachers. They are very good teachers, very intellectual, adventurous and independent. Okay, so both of these are pretty much, Aries is independent and Jupiter is independent. That's in Sagittarius. This makes that person want to be adventurous and independent. Adventurous and independent. Doesn't want to be hemmed in. Well, you can't saddle that wild horse, because you know what it's going to do. And courageous, and can be foolhardy about taking risk. They want an adventure, and they will take a risk to make that happen. Apt to act and think afterwards. So they're going to go out there like a wild horse is going to run, and it's going to do what it needs to do with that raw energy of Mars, right? Earth guide only, ego, earth guide only. It needs to learn how to use the spirituality, the higher consciousness of Jupiter. And that's all it's saying. that the teaching ability in this sign with Mars there needs to concentrate more on philosophy and religious thoughts. Now I'm talking about not the religious stuff that they're teaching here now. That's just pimps, pimping your money and capturing the people with lies. I'm talking about higher spirituality ventures into higher knowledge and knowing. Take this out, because religious in today's world is false. It's phony and deceptive. Okay? So if you take this raw energy and you utilize it for higher consciousness, philosophical stuff, you will know, not believe, in knowing things. So you take the raw energy and you develop it, and then make it adventures, and then that adds more to your independence. Doesn't want to be hemmed in, courageous, and can be foolhardy about taking risks. Okay, well, you can see that because Mars raw energy is operative there. Apt to act and think afterwards because of the impulsiveness of Mars. That's what it's saying. Okay, so let's look back into the next section, which is now the sun is at its 21st degree and going through its 29th degree to reach 30, which is 0 degrees of the next sign, and that would be Capricorn. So as it travels through 21 to 29, because the 30th degree is 0 degrees of Capricorn, it actually will be ruled by the sun. So this quadrant right here is going to be ruled by the sun, and it's going to be ruling over Sagittarius. Now look at that. This is called a Sun Sagittarius. This is fire on fire. Fire on fire. Sagittarius is a fire sign, and Leo is a fire sign. And what's the other trinity? Mars, Aries. The trinity of fire: Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. So with a Sagittarian with 2 of the fire elements in it, let's see what that has to say. Okay. Here's 20 through 30 or 29 degrees, and it's ruled by the sun itself. The sun is shining in Sagittarius. And then it says the best decanate for Sagittarius, of course, because both of them are fire signs. Sagittarius is a fire sign, and Leo is regal. Okay, it's definitely out there. So it combines the light of the solar ego, not earth guide only, but now it adds spirituality, higher knowledge, knowing, with the power of the super conscious mind. Because these are super. Jupiter's super, the sun is super. So super conscious mind. Kind-hearted and generous, intuitional and inspirational. If advanced beyond that, can be the great help for others, of course, because you want to be inspiring. You don't want to be, a religious leader that misdirects your people. It's like the shepherds are taking the lambs to slaughter. In the religious order that we're learning it in right now. Okay, note aspects between Jupiter and the sun, because that can tell you another story about how that interplay, that aspect, that dynamics due to the aspects is taking place. And here's that word again, afflicted, which means terribly unaspected. So it's not receiving the aspects, a trine, a sextile, a conjunction, but it's receiving squares, square, a opposition, and so you have to find out how these aspects are actually affecting your birth planets between Jupiter and the sun, your particular planets that you were born with out of the ephemeris on the day that you were born, month, day, and year, and you will see the degrees of what these planets were in. What degree was the sun in, as opposed to what degree Jupiter was in. I already showed you the transit times. Okay, the transit times shows everything. Jupiter takes 12 years per one sign. So what was it in that year that you were born that it was transiting through? curious, you should look. And then over here, you have the sun moves in 1 degree. Well, we know that it's in Sagittarius, so that's one problem solved. But what degree was it in the longitude for that day? What degree was it moving in? Well, we got a clue. We got a clue already. Okay, because now we go back to our chart. I'm going to show you how that works. Here we know that the sun at that particular time was at least in from between 21 and 30 degrees or 29 degrees. We know that for a fact. The sun was shining in because the sun has jurisdiction. It's the ruling planet for this decanate when this person was born. So that's problem solved. So the only thing you need to do is find an ephemeris to find out, and then do an aspect, the difference between the aspects between this planet, okay, and Jupiter, and then you will know. It will tell another story about what it's saying to you. Okay, let's move on, and that is it for that Sagittarian explanation from 0 through 10 degrees, from 11 to 20, and from 21 to 29, because 30 is the beginning of Capricorn, 0 degrees Capricorn, and that's our next pursuit. Okay, now we have arrived at our next sequence of decadent degrees. Today's conversation is about how the sun, the planet sun sign, transits through Capricorn in these degrees. Now, there's only 30 degrees to a sign, as you've been learning, and there 12 times 30 is 360 degrees. So now, when the sun is transiting through a particular sign in a particular month, the sun spends 1 month in each sign. As we brought out before, in this transit, sun spends 1 degree of longitude per day. That means it only moves 1 degree per day for an entire year. That's what the sun sign means. That's what this schedule is right here. And that's why you have a birthday. Everyone has a birthday that was born on the planet. And if you don't have a birthday, then you're an alien. No, but it just gives you an idea of what I'm referring to when I say the sun is in a particular sign. Now, that gives you your sun sign. But they missed the mark when they don't get into specifics. That's why people are they're misinformed about how astrology works. Okay, you have to really investigate a subject to even make it an accusation about it. You have to make an investigation about anything that you don't know about. Before you can make a criticism about it, you need to find out about it. Now, basic sun signs have everything to do with how the sun moves through its degrees. Now, as I mentioned before, the planets rise in the east and set in the west, but so do the signs rise in the east and set in the west, but in opposite to one another, in opposition to one another. That means that the sun rises, where's your left hand, rises from the left hand to the right hand and up. That would be east. And all of the planets travel from left hand to right hand and up and around, because east is on the right hand east side. And now on the other side, you have the signs, the zodiac signs, that are rising in the east from the left hand side. That's east on that side. And the signs rise on the east side, on the left hand side, east, rising to around and to the right hand and around again. So that's why you have a rising sign. When it rises, it rises. It doesn't fall, it rises. So it was confusing to me, but I now understand that the planets have to rise in the east And then as the planets go, like let's say the sun that we're talking about, it comes around to the season of Sagittarius. And then it meets at a certain degree. It starts off at 0 degrees of Sagittarius and goes to its 10 degrees. So by meeting up with the signs for that month or that season, okay, because we discussed Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, spring. The middle of Gemini is, and Cancer and Leo is summer. Then you have the middle of the bottom part of Leo, or then you have autumn, which is Virgo, and then autumn, Libra, and then Scorpio. Then you have the beginning of like, winter at the, when it starts to turn in Sagittarius. And so winter is definitely Capricorn. 0 degrees Capricorn is definitely the beginning of winter. So you'll have like fall around this season, and then winter seasons you'll have Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, which actually goes into spring, winter, spring. So you'll have a mixing of the seasons, but yet when that sun comes around and goes through these zodiac signs, they're going through seasonal patterns. They're not going through constellations. They're going through seasonal patterns based on terra firma, the platform of observation. When you're looking into space, you're looking at it from a geocentric position, not a heliocentric position. Geocentric is Earth-centered, when you observe everything from an Earth center. So when you look at these signs, you're observing the seasonal pattern, not the constellational pattern, the seasonal patterns. And this is the confusion. The constellational patterns operate in opposite direction. That comes up like the signs do, but they travel every 26,000 years based on the precession of the equinoxes. And they promote the changes of ages that we go through. Like we're coming out of the Piscean age into the age of Aquarius. And that ends, each age spends 2160 years in each age. So as we come out of a 21,600 years of the Lion Pisces age, we go into knowing age of Aquarius. So I just want to give you some idea about how that works. The sun only spends 30 days in each sign. Capricorn, we're in Capricorn now. Capricorn likes gray or black. So we're going to do a gray or black for that. We'll do a gray because we can't see. So we'll do a gray for, where is it? Okay, we'll do a gray. I'm sorry I get so out of whack, but somebody has to tell the truth. And not all of Piscean age is lion. It's just misconcepted. There's a misconception about the age because it's hiding in a fog. And when it's fooling people, it's luring people into this fog so they can't see anything else that is around them. And if they start to see things around them, then they send out the Inquisition against them. That's what's been happening in this age. Inquisition comes and says, no, we don't want you to think that way. We're going to kill you if you think otherwise. So it's a lying age as far as I'm concerned. It's an age of fairy tales and illusions. Okay? Where fairy tales mean more in this life than reality does. So that's why I say the ages, they got people thinking that's the end of times. The end. And everybody's praying like they're going to heaven or hell or purgatory or somewhere. And it's just the end of the age. When we transcended from the age of Taurus, and then the ages go backwards, so we went from Taurus to Aries, then they were up in the mountain. Moses supposedly, the leader of the Jews at the time, as the story goes, he went up to the mountain and came down with the 10 Commandments. Well, it wasn't ready because they were still worshiping the calf, which is part of the Taurian age. But they were supposed to be coming and worshiping the sheep, the lamb. Okay, and so the age of Aries kicked in, and people didn't want to realize it was the end of the Taurian age. So they did the same thing at the end of the Aryan age into the Piscean age, because now Jesus kicked in, and they took the sun out of the sky and put it into a man hanging on a cross. So now everybody felt bad that they had all of these sins that they created, that they didn't make any sins, and they had everybody believing in that this person on the cross was God, came down to earth in a body, and was dying for our sins. And you don't see why I say it's a lying age. Okay, so I can't wait till we get to the age of Aquarius, because now we're out of that fog, we're out of that lying age, deceptive age. Now we get into an age that everyone will know what we're about, who we are, and stop pretending that this world is for all these people that are gaining by putting us in shackles and shackling our minds and our spirits, catching us in a planet, catching us in a net, and using us as for whatever they want. But again, I'm drifting off to the subject. All right, let's emphasize on what the story is about. The sun transiting through the sign Capricorn, and as it goes through its 30 degrees, it goes through different decanates. Decanates are 10-degree areas of influence. Each age is influenced by a particular planet. So now you have from 0 to 10 degrees, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, its natural planet that rules Capricorn, in the first 10 degrees. But in the second part of the 30 degrees, you go from 11 to 20 degrees. Now you have the planet Venus influencing the Capricorn sign. All right, because those people that were born at that time when the sun was crossing in its 1 degree per day movement, it went from 11 through 20 degrees. The planet that influenced this sign is Venus. Venus is influencing Capricorn. So that has everything to do with how that mix, how these people born at that particular time identify with their individuality. And then for the last part of the decanates, as the sun moves through its 1 degree motions and giving everybody a birthday, it goes into 21 through 30 degrees or 29 degrees, because 30 is the beginning of Aquarius. And 0 is the 0 degrees of Aquarius. But so I say 21 to 29 degrees. And then that planet that rules for that decade of that 10 degrees is Mercury. So Mercury's influence in Capricorn has a different mix of individuality. Those people that were born during that time, because everyone is born as an individual, and the characteristics are showing not only in their sun sign, but in all the other planets that I had brought up, and so that you can see. Because it's not only the sun, it's the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And then when you get beyond this, it's asteroids. Okay, because you have 2 asteroid belts. You have Mars, between Mars and Jupiter, you have an asteroid belt. Okay, and then you have, after Pluto, you have another asteroid belt. Okay, the Kuiper belt. Right, that's another asteroid belt out there. So before that, you have all of the what they call asteroids, which determine a lot. But that's few lessons down the road. Okay, but anyway, back to the lesson. You have, so let's see what Capricorn, how Saturn is influencing Capricorn in its first from 0 to 10. So Capricorn from 0 to 10 degrees is ruled by Saturn. Okay, and I'll show you the planet again. Planet Saturn is right here. That's what it looks like. And it's saying that these people that are born in that degree is most ambitious of all the decanates. Okay? Practical and persistent in obtaining goals and objectives. If Saturn is afflicted, which means poorly aspected, they do not hesitate to use people for their own ends. Well, one of the key words for Capricorn is I use, therefore I am. They like using things. The lesson is to utilize, not to use. Okay? Utilize people, not use people. That's the difference. Okay, so if it's poorly aspected, they won't hesitate to use people. But if it's positively aspected, they can utilize people. Okay, and people won't be offended by being used. Okay, Saturn in upper part, if the Saturn is in the upper part of the natal birth chart, then the energy drive for success exceedingly is strong. That means that Saturn is prevalent. That is a main goal to reach success. If Saturn is high in the chart. Remember the chart, the natal chart, everyone should have a blueprint of their energies. Okay, it's like having GPS and not getting lost. But if you notice that if it's above the horizon line, now everything in your chart, the chart is divided by the horizon line in the ascendant. So you'll see when you look at your chart, there's a horizon line, right? And the planets, the signs rise up on the horizon, over the horizon, and that's called rising. But on the lower part of the chart is the subjective level. On the upper part of the chart is objective awareness. Okay? So this is what they're saying. When Saturn is in the upper part of the chart, it's objective awareness, and therefore makes the person more exceedingly successful and strong in their pursuit for what they're going for. All right, if it's beneath the horizon, that means the subjective side, the bottom part of the chart, then they have a desire to retreat from the world. All right, more of a, what do you call a Capricorn person? It's just a hermit, more like a hermit that is limiting and limits others. You go to test, they don't need to test, they just fail you right out. Those are the negative aspects of that Capricorn nature. They use people and they fail you for no reason. Even though you pass, they still fail you. Okay, that's what they do. All right, so now let's go back to our chart. I'm only telling the truth. All right, back to our chart, which is Capricorn in the second quadrant from when the sun is crossing through 11 through 20 degrees. Okay, it's in Capricorn. Then the ruling planet at that particular time is Venus. Now Venus has like the energies come in. Like you'll put salt and pepper together and it'll create a different taste. If you have salt by itself or pepper by itself, it's not as effective because now you're working with spices. But if you put this ingredient of Venus with Capricorn, now it makes a different spice as opposed to Saturn ruling itself. Now you add a different spice to the energy of Capricorn, and depending on what degree it's in, between 11 and 20, it will create that person to be a certain way. So let's find out what that is. Okay, so it says from 10 to 20 or 11 to 21, it has Venus ruling that area. Okay, and it says it quickens the artistic nature and talent where music and dance are concerned. Okay, so here you find your music and dance instructors, choreographers. These people are linked to, bringing Capricorns are now wanting to be refined in the arts, right? They choose artistic nature and talents where music and dance are concerned, because Venus is picturing it, is adding a different spice to how they see the world. Okay, they're not looking at it like dungeons. They're looking at, because they want to mix with people through this Venus. Okay, if Venus and Saturn are well aspected, right? So if that Venus, and that's what that aspect is all about. If Venus and Saturn are harmoniously blending, okay, remember you're operating in a vacuum of 360 degrees. These energies operate in 360 degrees and they act on each other, creating dynamics, frequencies, vibrations, and these frequencies and vibrations cause a certain reaction. And by this standard, it's saying that now Venus acting on Capricorn makes them artistic and want to mix with music and dance. Okay? So their ability to obtain success materially, again, if Venus and Saturn are well aspected. Now it gives this also gives a loyalty and endurance. Okay, they're very loyal because they're not using people, they're utilizing people, and it gives them endurance to pursue other things, maybe different from art. Maybe they want to get into business or politics. The endurance carries them there. Can be quite stubborn. Well, what Capricorn do you know that's not stubborn? Okay, and I had a hard time understanding why a cardinal sign would be in a fixed position of stubbornness. But then when you look at how planet Uranus is a fixed sign, okay, is one of the fixed signs, then you know how they co-rule each other. The stubbornness is coming from planet Uranus, not from the cardinal or the initiating sign of Capricorn. So if you find them to be stubborn, they're more influenced by the planet Uranus, which co-rules the planet Saturn, and Saturn co-rules the planet Uranus. Uranus co-rules the planet Saturn. Saturn co-rules the planet Uranus. So one is cardinal and one is fixed, and it took me a while to get that, to understand how these Capricorns are stubborn. And to me, I was saying, well, how can a initiating cardinal sign that likes to initiate be stubborn? And so there it is. It's in being influenced out of the stubbornness by Uranus, who is fixed. And if there are many fixed signs, okay, that would cause that stubbornness. This individual can be his own or her own worst enemy, or his or her own best friend. Okay? And self-undoing versus self-sustainment. So it all depends on how this person is influenced, or how they use that Saturn. Like I said, the whole key word to Saturn is use or utilize. Okay? Use or utilize. You can use somebody or you can utilize them. Two different aspects. Okay? And most Capricorns use people. That's their key word. Use people. Okay? Very seldom you find a person that utilizes people for their betterment. And for their self-betterment, which is self-sustainment. Okay? And I don't need to be emotional about it, but as we're coming up with the dynamics of truth, then truth comes out with observing what is going on with these people, these Capricorns. Okay, they're slated for greatness, but they fall back on themselves because they want to use people instead of utilize them. Okay, and that holds them up. So they fail their own tests. So I say, who's testing the testers? All right, if they're the testers, then who's testing them? And in today's world, if you look at politics, or if you look at the presidency, all of this, these are people that are supposed to be helping us, directing us. These people are supposed to be our servants, but yet we become their servants. So who's using who? Okay, that's the difference between using and utilizing people. Okay, they are using us. Okay, this system is the old Roman system, but let's not even go back into that. Wow. All right, I drifted off a little. Okay, so we're talking about 10 to 20 degrees, and the ruling planet for Capricorn at that degree is Venus, and it really makes these people artistic in nature, and the talent where music and dance are concerned, and the ability to obtain success depends on whether Saturn is high in the chart or low in the chart. And if it's low in the chart, then you got to watch those people that like to use people, okay? Because those people are, they may want to use you, and they still have the ability to learn from, what is right and wrong, okay? They still have to learn how to know the difference between right and wrong, okay? Because they can be their own worst enemy or their own best friend. Okay, so let's go back to the chart. Let's go back to the chart. Okay, now the next section, 21 through 30 degrees of the sun transiting through the 30 degrees of the Capricorn sun sign, is now the planet that Mercury is ruling that section of 21 through 30 degrees. And so now it adds a different mix. Mercury adds a different spice to how it influences the sun sign vitality of Capricorn. Okay, and so Mercury in Capricorn at that in this decanate of 21 through 30 degrees or 29 degrees. Let's find out what that means. Okay, so here we are at, we have to change pages again. All right, 20 to 30 degrees. Here's Mercury, the ruler for that decanate, and it says it quickens the discriminatory and intellectual faculties. It quickens the discriminatory and intellectual faculties. So they're very discriminating. Discriminating is a key word for Virgo, not Gemini, but Virgo. Intellectual faculties is more like Mercury for Virgo, for Gemini. Okay, but discriminating is always key to Mercury under Virgo. Okay, and I can say intellect. Both of them are intellectual faculties, but I have to bring out discriminating is maybe a wrong word for more like intellectual thinking. It quicken the thinking and intellectual faculties. But if you use discrimination, that's more like a Virgo, and there's two sides to that. So Mercury in this instant is, to me, by using this word, is using the earth element of Virgo for an earth energy to facilitate this meaning. Quickens discriminatory and intellectual faculties. Apt to be critical and demanding. Oh, that's definitely Virgo. Okay, they're critical and demanding. That's Virgo. Okay, so let's take a rest, and because we have to change pages, and we'll come back after this brief intermission. Okay, we're here on the other side, and we have to finish with the Capricorn, the sun and the influence of the Capricorn. I think we missed a page. or part of a page. I think we were here over in Mercury. So 21 through 30 degrees of the sign in Capricorn is ruled by Mercury. The ruling is Mercury in this decanate. Okay, so now so Mercury, actually, I had to splice this in. It quickens the discriminatory, as we mentioned, and intellectual faculties, which we determined faculties, and apt to be critical and demanding if not careful. Okay, so we mentioned that this Mercury definitely has to be Virgo. Remember, Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini. So when they use the keywords discriminating, and then they jump down here and said critical and demanding, that's Virgo. Okay, those are keywords for Virgo. And then it says apt to be critical and demanding if not careful. Okay, good worker in research. That's definitely Virgo again. Okay, that's Virgo. And mental pursuits and scientific endeavors. That's scientific, that's introverted, and so that definitely confirms that's Mercury in Virgo, ruling over Capricorn. And it makes a good announcer and newspaper worker. Okay, actually, Mercury in Virgo are good, auditory. They make good background sounds. They have good voices for background sounds and announcers. They make good announcers. And newspaper workers. I could see where, journalism from some aspect would definitely suffice for the Mercury in Capricorn, because Capricorn pursues business and Virgo details. So detail and business, they have definitely a good avenue for, scientific research, mental pursuits, scientific endeavors, announcers, and the only thing that it says that it just needs to be not too critical and demanding. Okay, they shouldn't be too critical and demanding, right? So if you had to learn anything from this right here, being a Capricorn, I would say that I would take all this into consideration and then utilize Mercury for not being cold but being warm. All right, in a warm pursuit, as long as you have your direction, which is universal, then it's not selfish, or you're not using, or not these critical, demanding pursuits, the scientific research, mental pursuits, and scientific endeavors, and is utilizing for humanity, not for selfish gain. Then it becomes not self-aggrandizement, but universality. Okay, so you can take the two positive attributes of Mercury and Saturn and blend them for universality. I think that's what it would work for you in a better pursuit. Okay, and that ends that aspect of that energy. Okay, now we're going to go into a different quadrant. We're going from the Muldoon chain to the Aquarian chain, and that's Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. We'll cover that in a moment. So let's bring up the chart. And now we have Aquarius. We enter Aquarius. Aquarius is like aqua blue. I love that color, aqua blue. But I don't have aqua blue here. But we'll do blue for Aquarius. This is more like a Pisces color too. But I'll save that. Actually, Pisces can be any of the, if you've ever been on a cruise in sort of waters, you would see different shades of blue. This blue, that blue, purple blue, sky blue. It could be represented. But anyway, Aquarius, to me, is a mixture of aqua and blue, because they're considered like dolphins or mermaids or, genies in a lamp. people like that, they're definitely from the age of Aquarius. Astrology rules Uranus, and Aquarius rules astrology for sure, because it's knowing, not believing, it's knowing. And when you know something, then you know the truth is in knowing the facts. And the age of Aquarius will reveal the facts to be true, and will reveal all of the misinformations that have been led. So much of our information today is wrong because of people, utilizing it for their own gain. So let's emphasize actually the sun going through Aquarius right now in the first 0 to 10 degrees as its natural ruler Uranus, that planet that's tipped over because of a solar storm, making these people, actually the rings go right like this. Saturn's rings go like this, but Uranus's go like this. Okay, so it makes the people unusual, and I think it's just part of the creation. They have to be unusual to bring unusual things in. It's linked with keywords like freedom, friendship, hopes, wishes, and desires. A very interesting sign. It's considered air, not water. It's helium, air. It used to be a long time ago Cancerian, like water. That's why Cancerians and Aquariuses attract, because these two, this used to be, Aquarius used to be water at one time. But water evaporates, if you know. Water evaporates. And when it goes to the higher levels, it becomes helium, or, like some higher form, etheric air. And so that's what you would consider Aquarius, etheric air, an etheric air sign. Okay, so now we discuss that 0 through 10 degrees of Aquarius going through sun sign at that degree of 30 degrees is ruled by its natural ruler Uranus, that rules over Aquarius. All right, and so let's see what that has to say. Okay, so here we are with my splice page, and so Aquarius, being ruled with its natural planet Uranus, from 0 to 10 degrees, is self-reliant, and prudence strong. Okay, so they are determined. It's like a fixed sign. So whatever they determine to bring in, they're gonna manifest that dream. Okay, they're gonna bring that dream, that hope, wish, into the dream, that desire, into materialization. Okay, so that's that prudence. Difficulties if they focus on that pursuit. And most Aquarians, they're very intellectual. This is the higher octave of Mercury, so they're just not playing with intellect. They know what they're talking about. The ones that actually know, all right. The ones that, fooling around, they're just playing around here. They don't have no other desire. They just earn those stripes for whatever. I don't know how they earn those stripes, but they need to pursue what they need to do with those stripes. Okay, and those stripes give them permission to do other things, not to take advantage of humanity because they have the rights to, while everybody else is fooling around, not paying attention, okay, or doing wrong for humanity, because that's all Piscean. When we come into Aquarian age, all the roaches are going to come out because the light's going to be on. Okay, all the roaches are going to have to scatter, and they're going to have to find other places to get off the main road, because now you can't hide behind the fog. The Aquarian age will reveal all the wrongness and bring it to forth. Most Aquarian ages are linked with the Golden Age, where people have received or have accomplished great, greatness. And the age itself, the people of that age have arrived at a pinnacle of knowledge, and so far we've been self-destructive. But anyway, this This represents the age, and the age of Aquarius will bring in the full knowledge of how Uranus, or how astrology is the actual interpretation, the real interpretation of the Bible. Okay, all of the stories in the Bible are all astrologically based. You should know that. All right, and they're now they're coming around to it. They're trying to bring it in through Mazzaroth, or Job in the Bible, talking about the Mazzaroth, which is the constellations. This is, they're trying to go against themselves now, or correct themselves, saying that they're not really into astrology, but they are, because there's no other way around it. If you're going up, you have to go through the energies. You have to understand, you have to be aware of how these energies are of God's energies, not man's energies. All right, now you have to realize there are two powers. There's the materialistic God, who sets the president on this planet, and then there's the universal God. Two different gods. And that's why they say you can't worship two gods. Now, I understand that you have to have material substance, but you don't have to have it to the point where you disregard everything. Okay? You have to understand how the spirit plays inside of the physical body. Not that materialization encompasses everything. Whoever has the most is the greatest until you die. Then you can't take you with you. So you need to understand how this planet has everything to do with the proper understanding of metaphysics, astrology, astronomy, anything that's higher in consciousness. Okay, so let's go back to what this means. 0 through 10 degrees is ruled by Uranus. These people will be reflective of this, some of the key words that this is displaying. And that's self-reliance and prudence, difficulties in early youth. Because when you think, people won't understand these people. They're like 50 years ahead of their time. Especially the children. They're no longer children. They're not children. They're like 50 years old. If they're 7, they're 57. If they're 3, they're 53. They're never, these people are old when they're young. Often due to a pig-headedness, which brings us to what we were talking about, Uranus being a fixed sign and being stubborn. Well, they mentioned pig-headedness over here. But as life advances, hard work and perseverance puts the individual into positions of prestige and power, because they're headed that way. They've earned those stripes. And if they forgot how to use them, well, then that's what's tripping them up. Makes a good scientist and can be a genius if Uranus is highlighted in the birth chart. Okay, if it's highlighted in the birth chart, a genius. Okay, and what happens to most geniuses on this planet? They're murdered because the society doesn't want to inform people about what's right now. They just want to keep people down like sheep, and it's a shame. It's a shame, but God's order is going to take precedence. The devil, there's no devil that's fighting God. If God created the devil, what do you think? Come on. If there's a God and there's a devil, what do you think is going to win? It's just that there's no counteract. It's just that simple. God created everything, and the energies that it created prevails, because that's what the sequence is. It's a prevalence. It's not, power. There's no power that's greater than God. So how is evil going to prevail over God? It's only a contrary, a duality. When you have one side, then you have the other side. If you have salt, you have pepper. If you have white, then you have black. If you have, whatever the sides are, night and day, death and life, you have a duality that's going on in this world. So people, like if you have a rule, then people have to break the rule because they don't like the rule. If the rule doesn't fit, so people that make the rules, then there's people that change the rule. There's always a duality that's going on. But you can't say that evil is fighting God. God created all of this. So is God created, is evil and good? You know, you really have to differentiate between what is right and wrong. And it changes during whatever time period you're in. All right. So let's get back to this. The individual position of prestige and power makes a good scientist and can be a genius if Uranus is highlighted in the birth chart, inventive type. Well, that's another thing characteristic of Uranus. They're inventors. They get these inspirations, these dreams. Matter of fact, if you talk to any Aquarians that you know, they'll tell you about dreams. They're always in these dreams, and talking about dreams or in dream books. Right now it's poetry, because that's the current trend of poets, the rappers to poetry and rapping poetry, things like that. Okay, so let's get back to our chart that completes this part. I think that's a very good blend for 0 going through 10 degrees with its ruling planet, Uranus, ruling Aquarius. The sun going through these 10 degrees, okay, and the ruling planet, Uranus. So let's get back to our chart. And our chart indicates that here's the ruling planet for Uranus over Aquarius. I don't mean to be redundant, but this is the only way to learn this. Okay, so now you have the next degree. Now remember, the sun is shining now we have passed, now we're in winter. We went from Capricorn 0 degrees, the equinox and solstice. Well, we just entered in Capricorn the winter solstice. And so now Aquarius is like, if this is the refrigerator, this is the freezer, Aquarius. That's when it really gets cold, okay, in the winter months. And so now let's look at the second quadrant, which is the Decanate rather, and from 11 to 20, or 10 to 21, whatever's in that area, the sun is shining in Aquarius, and it promotes, as we mentioned, the spice of Mercury ruling in Aquarius. Now, we know from other lessons that Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. Okay, so this is a bit intellectual. This is very smart. This is genius, acting on a genius level. I understand Oprah Winfrey, and I keep using Oprah Winfrey because she is Aquarius, okay? And so intellect is definitely, she invented some new stuff that people are mimicking just to this day. And one of the higher rollers in terms of money in this system and right now. So here it is. This is what's going on. Uranus and Mercury working together. This is high roller intellect. High roller intellect. Okay, so let's look at how the second decade of 11 through 20 degrees is the ruling planet of Mercury is operating on in the sign Aquarius. Okay, so here we are, and here's Mercury. Here's 10 through 20, and here's Mercury in ruling in that decade. And the type of mind that roams the universe sitting at a desk. Here's excellence, but sitting at a desk, okay, because they're always in a rulership position. They're always in a leadership position. The universe sitting at a desk. Keen intuition. Ideas should be grounded by being used. Okay, use those energies, those ideas. A lot of times, if you're looking at this, you want to take and look at this really keenly, as they mentioned, keen intuition, that you have an idea, you need to utilize it. Curiosity, very active, curious about a lot of stuff. Curiosity. And more friendly than the first decade. Okay, so they're using their intellect for gain. Sitting at a desk shows intellect or some kind of leadership capacity, and you're using that mind, but it roams the universe sitting at a desk. So whatever they do, they're always going to be high up doing something with leadership. Okay, so that's that decadent. And it depends really on the person and how to utilize it. It's just one aspect, a few words, some keywords to help you to get familiar with how to get into these energies and do aspects and find out more information. This is just, a preliminary introduction to how these energies can influence you. Okay, so let's get back to our chart. Okay, and now we're at the last decadent view, 21 through 30 or 21 through 29, with 0, the 30th being 0 of the next sign, Pisces. Okay, so now we have Venus, the ruler of this decadent, 21 through 29. What spice is Venus lending? And we already know that Venus has artistic abilities. They're refined. They're aesthetic. They like beauty. So we take the Venus quality and we mix it with the inventive quality of Aquarius. Okay? The high intellect of Aquarius. And what do we have? Let's see what it says. Okay. 20 through 30 or 29. And here's the ruling planet, Venus. Those in service to many people will find it fulfillment in this decadent. Represents the uplifting of the love consciousness. Okay, there's Venus, love consciousness, love consciousness to a higher goal than personal satisfaction. So these people aren't selfishly, pig-headedly but they're utilizing people for love consciousness to a higher goal than personal satisfaction. Because when you use people, it's just that, personal satisfaction. When you utilize people, then it's called universal consciousness. Okay, that's the difference. So artistic is Venus in nature. Refined, a key word for Venus, in consciousness, but can be too cold and impersonal. That's Aquarius. They're impersonal. They can deal with groups of people, but when it comes to personal, they're impersonal. Needs hot warmth to balance mental powers. So you need to get some of that love consciousness going for you. That love consciousness will heat up the hot warmth and balance those mental powers. And then the creativity will ride to a higher goal than personal satisfaction. Okay. Now we go into Pisces. Pisces is our next. I have to change pages, but I already said that. All right, so Pisces is our next point of emphasis. And so we will go into, here's the planet Uranus. Now we're going to Neptune, which is Pisces right here. Okay, just want to reiterate, Uranus takes 84 years through all of the signs, about 1/2 degree, 30 minutes per month in each sign. Now we get to Neptune, 165 years through all of the signs. Can you imagine? Kind of tells you where the spirit is. It doesn't drop off when people die at 80, 72 through 80 or 90. This right here tells you that if this thing goes on, the spirit lives on. It's 165 years. Who do you know that lived to 165 years. That foolishness in the Bible, forget it. I'm talking about right now, in this present age. Do you know of anybody that lived to 165 years? The answer is no. Okay, but it shows you that the planet, the energy of the planet, goes through a cycle of 165 years to travel all the signs. So that means people coming back in are actually continuing their energies as they enter again to finish whatever projects they have been pursuing. These higher energies describe that these energies, when you come back in, you have another map. Well, it tells you what you have accomplished, where the energies are. And in this 165 years, whether it had moved to a different house department, or whether it stayed in the same sign, or changed locations, that is a map right there. And it stays with you through lifetimes. About 2 degrees per year. Now, wait till we get to Pluto. 248 years to transit all the signs. 20 years per sign. That's even deeper. Okay, I just wanted to show you that how the planets operate. The blue color, they like blue. Other colors they like. Yeah, it's like blue or green actually. We'll bring in this color, green, blue, green. Yeah, we'll bring in that. So it's different from Aquarius. And so we'll focus definitely on Pisces. So now we're in the winter months. We're deep in past Aquarius into Pisces. Okay, and now we go into Pisces. Well, and then Pisces is the last part of winter, and then so you have winter spring here in terms of a season, winter spring. Okay, and then you get ready for Aries again, which repeats the cycle. So the sun is coming to its last, 30 degrees, and it's going to enter from 0 to 10 degrees. So the first quadrant is Neptune, because Neptune is the natural ruler of Pisces, right? So let's see what 10 degrees. Oh, Neptune is saying to Pisces. It is. Okay, Neptune, Pisces in 0 degrees through 10 degrees is ruled by Neptune, its natural ruler. And this is a water sign. Okay, so only freedom for Pisces. Remember I mentioned earlier, Pisces need to serve or suffer. If they don't serve, they suffer. And if they're trying to escape, human relations is a really good prospect for, a job for Pisces, because they are the definite sponge to absorb. A lot of times Pisces, all they need to do is stand around and let people talk, and then people walk away saying thank you to them. It's just that type of person, because they have encapsulated all of the experiences at this particular point that they were supposed to be conscious of. Now, there's a lot of Pisces that go into these dream worlds that they go into drugs and alcohol, and so consciousness is something that that has to transcend from one life to the next. Here we go. So Pisces from 0 to 10 degrees in Neptune, the ruling planet, natural ruling planet for Pisces, says only freedom for Pisces comes from relinquishing personal desires. Because now you can't be personal. Your human relations, you have to take everybody into consideration. It's a universal thing. You're coming out of Aquarius, now you're going to Pisces. You're coming out of the rainbow of the Aquarian, the dolphin. You're going back into water, right? From what you came. Everyone came out of water, all right, and then ascended out of the water to become trees, plants, fish, up the evolutionary ladder to become who we are, because we came out of the waters of the sea. And then we manufactured a physical body because the spirit needed to be encased in something that can be utilized. It's the manifestation of everything that occurs at that particular time. So they should relinquish personal desires, because they know that everything comes. You can't keep anything for yourself. In this world, you have material things. You have a material body. Okay, you have material things first. That's taken from you. You have a material body. That's taken from you. And at death, what do you have? You have back to spirit. Okay, so all things considered, this is the homeless wanderer seeking and not finding on the earth plane. Okay, because they have to be conscious of what this play is all about. Life is a play, and it's the spirit in search of itself. And it creates all kinds of dynamics in order to make that happen. All right, it loses itself even to find itself again. Only when separateness is dissolved will he or she know his or her divine heritage. Aspects between Neptune and the Sun are very important. Overcoming the emotional response to life, yet not losing the capacity for feeling and compassion. That's a key word for Pisces, compassion. Okay? It has to do with universal love, where Venus has to do with, aesthetics, aesthetic loves. Pisces has to do with compassionate love, universal love. And not yet lose the capacity for feeling and compassion is the task for this decadent. Now we're talking specifically for this decadent of Pisces in particular. Okay, so that's the Neptune in the first 10 degrees of that sign. Let's go back to our chart. And now we enter the second decadent, which is 11 through 20 degrees, and the ruler is the moon. Okay? And the moon and Pisces, two water signs. These are two water signs. So let's see how this mix. This actually lends to like psychic abilities, like and intuitions. Let's see. So the next page. Okay, from 10 to 20 is ruled by the moon, as we described. And the second decadent of Pisces is difficult, for the person is more at the mercy of subconscious moods and feelings than the other two decadents. Why? Because the moon. See, emotions is everything to understand, and the moon describes all of the aspects that the moon is going to go through. Now, if it's a Pisces, it's already going through many personalities within itself. All the personalities within itself on a larger scale. But on a lower scale, on a smaller scale, the moon also goes through all of the signs in 28 and 1/3 day. So if this Pisces is going through all of the signs, it's confused already. Now, with the moon confusing it more emotionally, not understanding the emotions that it's feeling, you can see this person is definitely headed for drugs and alcohol. Okay? It needs to understand the emotional self and then understand the dynamics of how all the signs are in Pisces. It becomes all of the signs. As the sun shines through these signs, they also become those signs. For this person is more at the mercy of subconscious moods. Well, subconscious is the moon. It holds the subconscious where the sun holds the conscious. And feelings than the other two decadents. Okay, easily hurt, apt to withdraw. Okay, yeah, that withdrawal is definitely Pisces. Let's bring the other part up. There we go. From participation when challenged. Okay, because they're timid. They don't understand how to deal with these emotions, these emotions that keep changing 2.5 days. All of the signs. Now they understand, they get to understand the first sign when the moon is in Aries, then it goes out 2-3 days later. Now it enters Taurus. Then it goes in Gemini. Then it goes in Cancer, then Leo. And those emotions are all mixed up. They have dualities to them. So you can understand, if you don't really understand this, then that emotions can trip you up. So they tend to withdraw when they're challenged, and they're timid, and irrationally they deal with these irrational fears if Neptune is unaspected, not aspecting correctly, because they're not picking up the vibes to the moon correctly. The vibes, that come in, they're not receiving it correctly. Let's say if you walk looking through water, and everything that passes through water kind of slants or tilts. The water changes its angle. Also, water is receptive to change anything. It responds to whatever emotion that it's put into. A strongly sympathetic nature, but has to learn not to identify with passing emotional currents. Identify with passing emotional currents is that psychic sponge that's picking up on other people as they're putting those sensitivities out there. They're feeling a certain way. So if the emotional sponge picks it up and he's not aware, or she's not aware of her own personal where her emotions end and the other people begin, then, or she's in an environment that has emotional problems and she picks it up, or he picks it up, then that also contributes to the passing emotional currents. Current is water, all right? Emotions is something ruled by the moon, which rules water. So emotional currents is the stream and flow, back and forth flow of water. Remember, water takes on the identity of whatever container it's put into. Okay, indecision and worry can give this person ulcers. Yeah, because if you worry, you're just going to give yourself an ulcer. You're worried about nothing. You have no control over something, so you worry needlessly, and you get an ulcer because the body is affected. Okay, because you're putting these energies into the body, and the body is either going to deal with it or it's going to suffer because of it. So that's why they say serve or suffer, because if you don't deal with your emotions correctly, then you suffer. Okay, ulcers come from letting environmental conditions eat at one sociologically. Okay, when the body pays the penalty, the phase "what's eating you" is characteristic of what is being said here, and is worth the consideration of knowing. So if you have this element or this energy, I would strongly advise you to get to know who you are and to find out how you differentiate from other people, and wring out that sponge. Because when you take in stuff and don't let stuff out, then there comes the ulcers. There comes, problems that can't be diagnosed. And what's eating you is definitely eating you because you're not letting that energy out. You got to let energy out to let it out. All right. So if you know thyself to be true, you don't put anybody over you. You come first by way of knowing who you are, what you're all about. Then you can help and assist other people. If you don't know who you are, how are you going to know somebody else? You understand? How are you going to have faith in other people when you don't know who you are? Think about it. Okay, now we'll go to the next decade, which is from 21 through 30, or 21 through 29, because that 30 is the next sign, which is Aries, the beginning. So now we come down to see what planet is ruling over that decade. and it's Mars. So Mars is ruling Pisces in this instant. And there's people that are born in between those degrees will have Mars as a ruler of that Pisces energy, as a sun sign. Okay, so let's go and see what that says. From 20 to 30, or 20 to 29, 21 to 29. Here is strength and strong will. Oh, because Mars is that, is fighting, it's giving strength. It's one of the energies. Vitality, raw energy, Mars, and Pluto power. Okay, but here, in this instance, Mars is giving strength and strong will. More fixed than the first 20 degrees of Pisces. More fixed. Okay, so this planet right here is Pluto, because Pluto is a fixed sign because it's ruling over Scorpio, one of the fixed signs. Remember, fixed signs is Leo and Aquarius and Taurus and Scorpio. So if it's saying that it's more fixed than the first 20 degrees of Pisces, then that means that this Mars is actually Pluto. Okay, you have to look at the key word. There's certain fixed signs, there's certain cardinal signs, mutable signs, and it can be very, very bad and very, very good for there is power here. So again, Pluto is power. All right, you have Sun vitality, Mars raw energy, Pluto power. Okay, can be very selfish and destructive if Mars is unaspected, especially if Neptune or Saturn is poorly aspected. So these have to be well looked into. If well aspected to the heavy planets, or the outer planets, this person can be a tremendous force for good. Yeah, because it becomes the justice seeker, the eagle that's looking out for other people, the justice seeker. Okay, and most people are Scorpions or justice seekers, but with this energy in Pisces, now they're less timid and more able to look out as an avenger for the people or the advocate for the people. The tone of the rest of the chart will show whether force is used for good or ill. Sure, because that's Pluto power, Plutonian power. You can take that power and use it for just about anything. If it's utilized correctly, then it's going to be for good. If it's utilized incorrectly, it's used for ill. Okay, the tone of the rest of the chart will show whether this individual is his or her own enemy or his or her own best friend. Self-explanatory. Self-undoing versus self-sustainment. Again. And so, if you're actually looking at this or learning from this, I would say seriously get into an ephemeris, find out if you haven't had your chart done, or if you had your chart done, look at where these planets are, do aspects to them, find out what it's saying to you, and see if you can adjust the energy levels to make it worthwhile to improve yourself, thereby improving yourself can make other people, yourself and other people better. Okay, this is a universal way. Okay, I think we covered all the aspects. Let's go back to the chart. Yep, we have finished our research into the quadrants of all of the signs from Aries to Pisces, from head to foot, so to speak. Oh, by the way, Aries rules the head, the face. Taurus rules the neck. Okay, Gemini rules the arms. Cancer rules the breast. Leo rules the heart. Virgo rules the intestines. Libra rules the kidneys. Scorpio rules the sexual genitalia. Sagittarius rules the hips. Capricorn rules the knees. Aquarius rules the thighs, the calves and the ankles, and Pisces rules the fish. Rules the fish, the feet. Okay, and you'll find this characteristic in all the signs. Just the body parts that rule these signs. Okay. Very interesting how this blend of decanates adds different spices when you mix and match these different ingredients. It's like you create these different individuals based on we just covered the sun sign. We haven't even gone into the other aspects for the other planets. We're talking about just the sun here. Now we're talking about how the moon, because when you were born, all these planets were active. And they were in different degrees, in different signs. Some in the same sign, some different degrees. Like Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So when you really want to explore into astrology, you have to understand the whole dynamics of the mechanism that makes this thing work. It'll take you a lifetime to learn the whole thing, but then you're learning who you are in reference to it, so you can better yourself with what energies you're achieving. You can keep your own report card, okay, because the idea is to grow. Growth is in your future plannings. That's what this whole dynamic is all about. So this is Astro Prep Future Keys Production. My name is EJ Lasassier, and thanks for your attention.